Hello, hello, hello. This is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate everyone coming on the show. Thanks to Mark Plott. Thanks to the other moderators for making sure the chat is smooth. Today, the chat is limited to subscribers. This is a test. I want to see what the chat is like when the chat is limited to subscribers. The chat, when it's not limited to subscribers, tends to get hit with a lot of unwanted comments from trolls and other things, and it creates a lot of work for the moderator. So I don't think mine so much, but I think it might make for a better chat. So let's get started. Are you ready? Let's go. Fun, fun, fun. I want to start with Tesla. And of course, thanks to the Vasa Law Firm in Sweden, all my Patreon supporters. Patreon supporters get to ask questions in advance. So do Lucid channel so do YouTube channel members at the exclusive content level and above. So do local supporters. So if you'd like to get your questions answered, which is going to be in the Patreon section here, then join the channel as an exclusive content member above, join the Patreon, or join the locals channel as a supporter, and any of those will allow you to ask questions in advance of the video of the live stream, and that way your question gets addressed, where if you're in the chat, it'll probably get addressed, but it'll get addressed later. So again, thanks to the Vasa Law from Sweden, all the Patreon supporters. So let's start with Tesla news. Elon was, there was some tweet about Texas power outage, and Elon said that Tesla's Megapack batteries will help stabilize the grid this winter. Jordan Lewandowski asked if this will be affordable for an average household. This misunderstands what Megapack is. Megapack is not something you would put in your house. Megapack is something that's a utility scale device. It can be used for large commercial projects, but it is primarily used by utilities. And Elon showed an image here where there's a bunch of Megapacks at some kind of power plant deployed to stabilize the grid itself, especially effective for absorbing peak loads. And what Megapack does is when there is an excessive amount of demand on the grid, where normally the grid would go to what are called peaker plants that are very expensive for electricity, the Megapacks kick in and provide electricity at much lower cost than if they went to peaker plants. And that's why it saves consumers money. So nice little thing there. And Elon also, in that conversation about Tesla Megapacks, there was this interview with the CEO of Pepsi and James Stevenson, who I've interviewed before on this channel. James Stevenson does his own investment analysis of Tesla. He noted that the CEO of Pepsi said he was expecting Tesla semi-deliveries in Q4, but semi-production won't start for another year though, right? Asking Elon, and Elon actually answered, don't read too much into this. As mentioned publicly, Tesla's constrained by chip supply short-term and cell supply long-term. Not possible to produce additional vehicles in volume until both constraints are addressed. This answer by Elon kind of didn't really answer the question. Will Pepsi be getting a few Tesla semis in Q4 or not? He didn't really answer that question. I don't think he really needs to answer that question. I don't think it's an important question. It is something that fans want to see. They want to see semis start getting deployed. It doesn't really matter whether Tesla gets 3 semis or none in Q4. What matters is that at some point, Tesla has enough battery production that they're able to ramp semi in significant volume, not only for Pepsi, but for other customers, not only in the United States, but in other countries. So, so that was that. And then another piece of news, if you were following Tesla closely, you know this was coming. Tesla now has 30,000 superchargers around the world and counting. They're growing fast. They are making a lot of superchargers. I believe they were in the 29,000 range when they did their last, the Q3 earnings report, which indicates the number of superchargers. I think it was over 29,000 as of September 30th, 2021. So only a month and a half later, they've passed the 30,000 supercharger mark, and it's growing. I think it's probably growing around 10,000 superchargers a year or more. I believe that the China factory produces 10,000 a year, or that's their production capacity. And there's at least one facility here in the US that is also producing superchargers. So, and you know, my guess would be they're going to build another factory to build superchargers because we're just going to need a lot of them. Then you have this question of, will the federal legislation that just passed, that I believe Biden signed, the infrastructure bill, I think it was like $7.5 billion earmarked for charging stations. So will the federal government be chipping in on building superchargers, and will that supercharge Tesla's effort to build more superchargers? Could be interesting. Okay, so the last quick thing about Tesla here is this probably should just go in the Elon section, but somebody talked about taking the amount of sunlight that hits the Earth, and it says that humankind is only using 1/10,000th of that amount for its total energy consumption. Elon points out in response, that is a very tiny fraction of the 4 megatons of mass that the sun converts to energy every second. But the average power density of the sun is comparable to a compost heap. Humans are more power dense than the sun. It's just that the sun is very, very big. So this is an important detail for people who wonder, where's electricity going to come from for powering an EV network? You know, if we all the vehicles convert to electric vehicles, where's all the electricity going to come from? The answer is the electricity is going to come from massive ramp of solar power. We're going to see a lot more solar power, and it's going to happen. So, all right, so that's, and then I guess just the other Tesla news, which I don't think I put in here. I think I'm going to address it in the Elon section, but Elon sold a bunch of stock. Elon is continuing to sell a bunch of stock. Kimball Musk actually sold a fair amount of stock, nothing compared to what Elon sold. People believe that that is putting downward pressure on the stock price. The stock price had hit $1,200 a share. It has now dipped closer to $1,000 a share. This is not a big deal. I'm a long-term investor. If you're a long-term investor, this is not something to worry about. If you are worried about selling your stock in the next 6 weeks, I suppose it matters. But if you're looking 6 months, 6 years out, then the momentary ups and downs of the stock don't really matter. So, but it got a lot of press, and I'm gonna come to that later. When we get to the Elon section, I'm gonna talk about that. I'm trying to think. Prices have gone up a little bit. There's still, if you order a Tesla now, depending on which Tesla you order, you can wait as much as 11 months to get your vehicle. There's a lot of vehicles that are backlogged. There's a lot of challenges to Tesla to ramp production, scale production, get enough batteries, get enough supply chain to be able to produce enough vehicles to satisfy this insane amount of demand that is out there. Crazy. I was talking to a guy this morning, 21-year-old. He says he's got to get a new car. He starts asking me about my Tesla. Everybody wants a Tesla. It's really exciting. So I don't think there's any other particular. I'm going to talk about Tesla Bot in a minute, but I don't see any other Tesla news. So let me go to Patreon questions. I didn't get any questions on the YouTube channel from the exclusive content members. I didn't get any questions on locals, but I got questions from my Patreon supporters. If you would like to be able to ask questions for the Sunday live streams, supporting this channel on Patreon, on locals, or as an exclusive content member on the YouTube channel, get you the opportunity to ask questions in advance. Rob says he wonders if I've given any thought to Tesla being able to make the vehicles fully autonomous in regards to safety and avoiding crashes, but possibly needing someone at headquarters watching the vehicles, needing to intervene over the air when the mapping and directions become an issue. So I think this sort of misunderstands what Tesla is doing. They want to get the vehicles to the point where they are fully autonomous. Okay, so I think if the idea is that someone is watching the vehicle the entire time it's driving, that's not feasible. The whole idea is to not have to have a person in the car. The car has to be able to drive itself without someone watching it. Now, can it have a call for help feature where the car recognizes it has a problem and calls for help? Sure, that could make sense, and maybe there would be somebody in the home office ready to respond to that call. I don't know if Tesla's building that into the structure of the car, but the car has a 5G cell phone connection. Always has a better cell phone connection than I have on my phone. I use T-Mobile. I don't know what they're using. So it seems to me that Tesla is ready. If they decide they need that kind of infrastructure put in place, that kind of solution put in place, I'm sure they can. So that was Rob. Thank you for your question, Rob. And thank you for your support. Melody says, I just learned this week Apple is using Tesla Megapacks at its Apple Park headquarters. With Tesla becoming a utility supplier in Texas, how much strain do you think Tesla Energy will have on vehicle, battery, and supply production in 2022? So the key is, first of all, Tesla opened a Megapack power plant, a Megapack factory recently that will have a production capacity of 40 gigawatt hours of Megapacks, which is around, I think, 10,000 megapacks a year. Each megapack is 3 megawatt hours, so 1,000 megapacks is 3,000 megawatt hours. 3,000 is each megapack is 3 megawatt hours, so 1,000 megapacks is 3,000 megawatt hours, which is 3 gigawatt hours. So the production capacity is about 13. Trying to do my math here. I think the production capacity is about 4,000 megapacks. Do I have that right? No, 10,000. It's like 10. I think it's 10 to 13,000. I think the production capacity is around 13,000 megapacks a year. So I believe that all those megapacks will be using lithium iron phosphate for their batteries. And that doesn't really compete with most Tesla vehicles. Most Tesla vehicles today are using nickel-based batteries. There are some vehicles that are using lithium iron phosphate batteries, but they're not a huge part of the fleet. I think that's growing. But the key is that lithium iron phosphate battery supply is going to grow very fast because CATL is scaling, it's ramping its production of lithium iron phosphate batteries. I believe LG Chem may be making them. I'm not sure if anybody else is making them. I think Tesla may have secured a contract with SK. I think there's at least one other company that Tesla has made a contract with to buy LFP batteries. So LFP battery supply, I don't believe is a constraint or not a significant constraint. So I think that's a good question. I love the fact that Apple is using megapacks. I think we've seen that Electrify America may be using Tesla hardware to make their charging stations run. It's hilarious. Damien, and also Melody says, what a great week for SpaceX. We're going to be talking about SpaceX in a few minutes. Damien says, did you watch Mr. Know-It-All's video explaining the levels of FSD? No, I actually don't watch a lot of YouTube videos anymore. I watch a lot of Rob Maurer, but I don't watch a whole lot of... I don't watch Stephen Mark Ryan. I watch some Dave Lee and I watch some Rob Maurer. I don't watch a whole lot of YouTube videos. At some point, I spend a lot of time on Twitter following everything that's happening on Twitter so I can keep up, because that's where the real news is, because almost everything that I see on YouTube is stuff I already knew from Twitter. So I would recommend following Elon and following all these accounts on Twitter, and you'll find out a lot from that. So I don't have an opinion about how he explained the levels of FSD. I don't know what you're talking about. There is a concept that comes from the Society of Automotive Engineers called levels of autonomy for vehicles. There's level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5. Most ADAS systems, advanced driver assistance systems, are level 2, which means a person has to be in the wheel paying attention at all times. Level 5 is when the car can drive anywhere without any human supervision. So, and then there's level 4 is like car can drive most places without human supervision, but maybe it has to have a lifeline, or level 3 is somewhere in between. I don't think the levels are terribly important. The big question really is, does it drive better than human? And I'll say this, by the way. Level 5 is the car can drive anywhere without supervision. I think there's a lot of humans who can't drive I think most humans cannot drive anywhere without supervision. Have you ever driven in downtown Boston or downtown New York City, like Manhattan or Brooklyn? There are people who are afraid to drive on interstate highways. So I don't know. I mean, I think interstate driveways are really easy to drive on, but there are people who are afraid to drive on them. I do not watch Ellie's channel very much, actually, Cedric. Thanks for the thought. I watch her occasionally. I work with her, but I just don't watch a whole lot of other videos. I watch SpaceX on YouTube, sometimes Everyday Astronaut, sometimes Scott Manley and Marcus House. But, I follow the Tesla stuff on Twitter. So, yeah, I watch some space stuff on YouTube. I probably watch Ellie occasionally. Yeah. So... Damien said, so I think the key is this notion of the levels, I think, is misguided. It's either better than human or it isn't. If it's not better than human, then you need human supervision. Once it's better than human, you don't need human supervision. Is there some in between where it has moments where it's not better than human and you need some sort of lifeline to be able to call home and, call the home office and get help, I suppose. But I think the level system's out of date. I think it was an interesting concept that people came up with. It doesn't really mean a whole lot. AK says, can I envision a 1 quadrillion market cap for 2041, a $1 million share price with Tesla Bot? I can. So I'm going to talk about Tesla Bot in a minute. Can I envision a quadrillion-dollar share price? Yes. Have any of my models come close to that yet? No. I am working on models that incorporate Tesla Bot, and I'm coming up with some pretty big numbers. If you saw my video yesterday, which, by the way, we'll talk about Bot in a minute, so I'll get to that in a minute. When do I think Elon Ferdinand asked this question? I think this is a great question. When do I think Elon will relinquish the CEO title of Tesla? So not yet. I think that Elon is likely to relinquish the title of CEO and step away, or more, I think more importantly, step away from active management of Tesla in about 5 years. I have heard from sources that Elon spends about 80% of his time at SpaceX anyway. I'm not sure that's true, but he does spend a lot of time working on SpaceX. Tesla has a great team. SpaceX also has a great team. Right now, I think Elon goes where the engineering challenges are. His primary value to the companies, all his companies, are his engineering decision-making, judgment, and ability to say, all right, this is what we're going to do. When there's a tough call about how to approach something, Elon's ready to make the tough call. There's the business management side of the company, which, let's face it, Zach Kirkhorn does a pretty good job of managing the business side of Tesla. Gwynne Shotwell does a pretty good job of managing the business side of SpaceX. Are there moments when Elon has to make big boy management decisions? Yeah. But I think that the biggest thing that's going on right now with Elon versus SpaceX Starship, that the innovations going into getting Starship flying is the biggest deal. And Elon is probably spending a lot of time in Southern Texas, in Brownsville at Starbase, working on making sure that stuff goes. And of course, he goes to Austin to make sure the Gigafactory is getting up and running and all that. But I think a lot of that stuff is kind of set. And when the time comes, when when they need help ramping Giga Texas or Giga Berlin, he's going to dig his heels in. He's gonna get in there, get his fingers dirty, get down and sleep in a conference room or whatever it is to get things working. He will jump in and he will work on that. But right now, things are going pretty well at Tesla. Growth is going great, and he is looking at. I think he's spending a lot of time at SpaceX. So there's a point where Tesla gets over a certain level of hurdles. Let's say the battery day vehicle is ramping and succeeding, and Tesla Bot is ramping. So Tesla Bot, I don't think we're going to see a production Tesla Bot until 25 or 26. We're in 21 now. So 5 years from now, let's say Tesla Bot starts ramping. It may be that he's got to keep his hand in it because Tesla Bot is so important that maybe he just keeps his hand in it. He just stays there. He lets Drew run the engineering side. He lets Zach run the business side, the finance side, and Elon call some shots. But he needs to maintain control of what happens with Tesla Bot because Tesla Bot is really important. He needs to stay in touch with the artificial intelligence team because what happens with artificial general intelligence is if we achieve artificial general intelligence, it's really important that you have someone like Elon who's on top of things. Because if you don't have good management of that moment, it can go really bad. Like everyone dies. If the artificial intelligence thinks we're a threat, then we're all dead. Once it's smarter than us. If it thinks that we're cute and thinks we're a pet, then we're okay. So Elon's got to make sure that the AI thinks that we're friendly. And he's in the best position to make sure that happens. Justin, I'm done with the Patreon question. So Justin asked a question I do want to address. Can anyone definitively comment on revenue from the Superchargers only? I don't think Supercharger revenue is very big yet. There is some Supercharger revenue. I don't think it's a lot. I don't think it's significant for Tesla. In theory, when Superchargers start taking non-Tesla electric vehicles in significant volume, they're only doing it on a test basis now in the Netherlands and maybe a couple other places. When that happens, maybe. What is Faisal asking? Have I turned on FSD beta in your Tesla yet? I've had FSD beta in my Tesla since the day I got it. And I use it all the time, and I think it's really, really impressive and really, really imperfect. It makes mistakes. It's not perfect. And I would say my primary interventions are when I want it to go faster and it's taking its time and it doesn't make the lane change that it should make and it doesn't accelerate quickly. And a quarter of a mile away, I see a light that just turned green and I know if we don't gun it, we're not going to make it. And I take over from the car so that we make that light. Or we're following behind a slow vehicle in the right lane and for whatever reason it doesn't shift in the left lane. Or it's really making bizarre lane change decisions lately, and it's like signaling like it's going to make a lane change when there's no reason to signal. There's a lot of little goofy things that it's doing, which is all part of the learning. And that stuff's going to get better. So anyway, but I use FSD beta all the time. Very, very happy with it. So, and again, thanks to the Vasa Law Firm in Sweden, all my Patreon supporters. What just happened? Thanks to the Vasa Law Firm in Sweden, all my Patreon supporters. I have this Patreon Q&A. If you'd like to be able to ask questions in the Patreon Q&A section of the videos, have your questions addressed in it, first when we do the Q&A at the bottom, potentially. Sometimes I do it that way. Then support this channel on Patreon. Support the channel by becoming an exclusive content member on the YouTube channel, or support the channel on Locals. Okay, so I should briefly mention, last week I did the live stream on Locals instead of on YouTube. YouTube has been demonetizing my live streams, which means I don't make very much money from doing this. I already don't make very much money from doing live streams, and YouTube demonetizing it means I make even less. I certainly appreciate super chats or super stickers, anything you can do to chip in on the channel. That's why I keep mentioning Patreon, Locals, everything. This is my main source of income now, and don't feel bad for me. I own a lot of Tesla stock, and I made more money on Tesla stock this year than I'll ever make on YouTube in my life. But to pay the daily bills, my Tesla stock's in an IRA that I can't touch. To pay the daily bills, I do the YouTube videos, and it helps. So, anyway, let's move on to the bot. I think this is relatively big news. One, I just made a video. The video is still doing well on YouTube. I posted this video yesterday. It's still rocking, where I've started to model how Tesla bot could potentially generate revenue for Tesla and profits for Tesla. And you model two things. How will it generate revenue, and two, how much will it cost? And the cost of Tesla bot should be fairly low. I would encourage you to check out the video. It's the last video on my channel before this one. Check out my video, and it's just the beginning. I expect to do at least 3 more videos modeling 3 different ways to look at Tesla bot's revenue and profit potential for Tesla. The numbers are scary good. I mean, the numbers are like, my previous estimates of $40,000 a share or $50,000 a share in 2030. If Tesla bot gets going, I mean, $100,000 a share might be low. The potential for 100 million bots earning $100,000 a year in revenue. That's crazy money. Okay, and it's all profit. The cost of the bot is like less than $10,000 for Tesla to build. So you can see some really crazy money, but there's different ways of looking at it. Are they selling bots? Are they leasing bots out to companies? Are they doing sort of a robo-taxi model for bots where Tesla owns a fleet and people can request bots on a spot basis? Or is it a combination of all 3? So I'm going to look at all that, and it's just crazy. But I didn't translate directly to share price in the last video, but the videos I've got coming up, I'm going to talk about that. But I wanted to talk really quick about, just so people know that bot is for real, Tesla is hiring. These are listings that, let me put this up first. These are job listings for Tesla bot. They're internship engineering. There's autonomy, controls engineer, test engineer, software engineer, embedded firmware engineer. There's more jobs here, a bunch of internships. There's senior humanoid mechatronic robotics architect. They're hiring a lot. They're hiring a lot for bots. So here's just an example. Mechanical engineer, actuator integration. Actuators are the little motors that make the doors open on a Tesla, that will make the fingers and hands and legs move on a bot. So they're hiring for somebody to do the engineering on the bot. Development of high-performance electromechanical rotary and linear actuator systems for the human bipedal robots. Join the team of electromagnetic motor design engineers to develop the most torque and force-dense rotary and linear actuator systems in the world. Mechanical design and integration of the actuator components, industrialization and production activities. And they're looking for, this is all the stuff you're going to do, and this is all the background, Bachelor of Science, Mechanical, Mechatronic, or Aerospace Engineering. They're hiring. And then there's also bot senior architect, robot modeling architecture, conceptual design of biped robots. They are hiring a lot of people to do a lot of things related to bot. Now, as I understand it, Elon said it at AI Day, they're only getting ready to build a prototype. And it's going to be, I'm sure with all the work they're putting into this is going to be a killer prototype. But the potential for Tesla to create a prototype bot in they're not stalling. I think Elon, Karpathy, Ashok, the autonomy team, the AI team, they see that they are getting close to a really, really high value artificial intelligence system that will enable real world operations for cars, and the same capability for bot and the potential for bot to do work that we need done, to do work that humans don't want to do work that is dangerous to humans, to do work that is unpleasant for humans, to do work that is repetitive, boring, and dangerous, as Elon put it. The potential is just off the charts. And if you watched yesterday's video, you'll see Dave Lee going nuts about the potential. It is just insane how valuable bot is going to be. The Tesla bot will twerk on TikTok. I think there's enough people willing to do that. Vita Vcheck says, when do I think bot will be used for anything useful for the first time? Well, the prototype will be 2023. The prototype bot will probably not be particularly useful. To be able to do any task at all, 2023, the prototype will be able to do something useful, but not the cost of the prototype bot will be so high. It doesn't matter how whether it's able to do a useful task in 2023. What matters is when they can scale production of bot, and when they can scale the use of Dojo, artificial intelligence, machine learning, neural network programming to enable bot to develop the ability to learn more tasks, to be able to do a significant number of tasks. My personal favorite is roofing, that there are tasks that go on a roof. That is a dangerous job. You're putting 1,000 tiles down on a roof, and it's a repetitive and probably boring job. The potential for bot to do that kind of work and save lives, because people fall off roofs when they're doing roofing work, saving lives, saving money because the cost of the humans on the roofs is a lot more than the cost of anything else. Check out the Elon stainless steel water mug, water bottle, and the t-shirts. Bot comes by innovating with extreme urgency. Starship comes by innovating with extreme urgency. FSD, self-driving, robo-taxis, all comes by innovating with extreme urgency. We need to innovate with extreme urgency. T-shirt at elonbits.com. Okay, so yeah, and I just want to talk about this. So I talk about bot, and I got a lot of comments on the YouTube channel about, well, Boston Dynamics bought this or this other bot. People are looking at other bots and they're saying, well, Boston Dynamics bot is really, really expensive. Why do you think Tesla bot will only be $5,000 to build? Well, Boston Dynamics isn't scaling. They're not building robots to scale, and the reason is because their bots aren't fundamentally useful. They're cute, they can make cute videos with them, but they're not fundamentally useful. Tesla is going to develop a bot that is going to be fundamentally useful because of the learning that they're going to be able to do with the AI that they're developing. The real world, the understanding of the real world that comes with the FSD chipset and the software enables them to train the bot to do tasks. And so they need to engineer a prototype, and the prototype will probably end up being not what the production version is going to be like. They will learn a lot from building the prototype, and that will lead them into iterative engineering. They're going to make a prototype bot, and they're going to say, okay, we could do it better if we did it this way. And then they'll make another bot. Okay, we do it better. And then it's not just engineering the bot, it's engineering the bot. It's engineering the factory that builds the bot, the machine that builds the machine. I'm wearing the wrong t-shirt. I got the Innovate with Extreme Urgency. I got the machine that builds the machine t-shirt too. The machine that builds the machine is critical. So when they're engineering the bot, they've got to say, okay, how can we engineer this thing so it's easy to build a lot of them cheap? Right? Because the less expensive you make the bot, the more at scale you're able to accomplish in terms of making the world a better place by having labor, bots that are willing to do work that humans don't want to do or that humans get paid very little to do. Can it take over that? All kinds of great things. So, all right. So let me move on from bot. I think we covered that. How are we doing on time? Wow, we're deep into this. So let's talk about SpaceX. We just had a Starlink launch. We had safe recovery of Crew 2. The Crew 2 mission came back from the space station, landed safely. They launched Crew 3. I watched the Crew 3 launch in person from Titusville. If you check I don't think I put that on YouTube. If you check my Instagram or my Twitter account, I posted a video of my view of the launch, which was kind of cool. I think the SpaceX view is a lot better than my view. But if you're interested, it's on my Instagram and it's on my Twitter account. I'm over 20,000 followers on Twitter, by the way. Instagram account is very small, but my Twitter account went over 20. I didn't even notice. I was already 20,500 when I noticed. And my YouTube channel is way over 60,000 subscribers, so thank you for subscribing. Really appreciate that. Um, they did Crew 2. Crew 2 came home. Crew 3 launched and reached the space station. Starship had a static fire, which I think I have a picture of that coming up. And they launched 53 Starlink satellites to orbit. I watched that on YouTube the other day. So a lot of great stuff happening with SpaceX. SpaceX is really, really delivering and a lot of quality work. It's delivering a lot of value to human society. And we've got Pranay Padhole, he just followed me on Instagram. I'm flattered. Pranay mentioned the new Starlink terminal. Elon said that the pattern on the Starlink router is an orbital transfer ellipse from Earth to Mars. So Starlink router, what's important here about the Starlink terminal and the router is if SpaceX can get the cost of producing the antenna and the router down to a lower price, then it's easier for them to scale. And if they're able to scale production so they can produce a lot more of the Starlink devices and the routers, then they're able to grow the customer base faster. The hang up is not having customers who want it. The hang up is being able to produce enough terminals and routers and satellites in orbit to be able to serve all the people who want this service. So the bigger thing about this is not the design, but that it's about how it looks, but about the fact that it's probably made to be produced in mass volume, to be produced in volume, to be delivered mass production. This is what really matters here. So Starlink is, the fact that there's a new Starlink terminal and router is a sign that they're ready to scale production. You're going to see a lot more Starlinks going out soon. That's the critical detail. Okay. And another critical detail about Starlink, which people who follow it know, there's this talk about they're expanding. Elon says that inter-satellite communications, laser communications, means Starlink can carry data at speed of light and vacuum all around Earth before touching ground. Over time, some amount of communication can simply be from one user terminal to another without touching the internet. Speed of light in a vacuum, for those who don't know, speed of light in a vacuum is faster than speed of light in fiber. So Starlink is actually faster in what's called latency. Its latency is lower than earthbound fiber. In other words, if you're communicating from London to New York via fiber optic cable versus going up into orbit, going across the Earth and coming back, going across the ocean and space and coming back down, the speed that it goes across space is so much faster than the speed going through the ocean that it makes up for the having to go up and down. Because going up and down is very short. It's only, 100 miles, 200 miles or something like that. Going across the ocean is several thousand miles. So big deal, big deal. This is making a lot of progress. Okay, and then there was one other. So Elon was celebrating that they've done 129 orbital flights. We are getting close, by the way, to 100 booster landings. The Starlink launch landed successfully. I believe that's in the low 90s, maybe close to 95 successful orbital rocket booster landings by Falcon 9. And so probably before the end of the year, we're going to see the 100th orbital rocket booster landing. Maybe by the end of the year. Hey, Tom Nash, thanks for joining the chat. Love you too. So Elon points out that this should work everywhere for global maritime by roughly middle of next year, which is when enough satellites with not every satellite, most of the satellites that are in orbit now do not have the laser links. As they scale production of the satellites with laser links, there's going to be enough satellites in orbit with laser links that it will work, that you're in the middle of the ocean and you'll be able to go up to a Starlink that's overhead and it will be able to communicate with another Starlink and another Starlink and another Starlink and get your signal down to wherever you're going. But that will be patchy when far from land because the satellite that's above may not be able to communicate with a ground station because it may be fully over water. That's the challenge. That's the problem. And that's a problem that's going to be solved soon. I did not say I don't watch Tom's channel. I said I don't watch much YouTube at all. I mostly watch SpaceX videos. So Starship had its 6-engine static fire launch the first time they've done that. Really cool. I don't think they're planning to do a test flight of SN20 with just the 6 engines. I don't think that's part of the plan. And then just for kicks, I threw in, Elon tweeted this. I guess this is supposed to be Thinker on another planet. I'm not sure what that is. Elon memes, and I don't always understand his memes, but I like them. I should have a conversation with Tom about Palantir. Tom, you and I should do an interview about Palantir. That would be a good conversation. Damian Weiss asked, do I follow back on Twitter all those who follow you on Twitter? No, I do not, because it would make my Twitter unusable. Thank you, Alexandra. And thank you, Tactical Tesla, for your support. Another quick thing, Elon talked about this. There was a Fermat's library listed the number of people who've walked on the moon. And some of them are, one of them is over 90 years old. Many of them are in their 80s. Elon, soon that list will grow much longer as humanity reaches new heights. We're going to see humans on the moon soon. More humans on the moon soon. It's not, Tom, it's not that I'm not a fan of Palantir. It's that I literally do not understand the business model and how it scales. I think I vaguely understand the business model of Palantir, but I don't understand how it scales. So this is the thing, like, because I'm not a corporate guy, right? I am a consumer primarily. I worked for Allstate insurance companies. I have a limited amount of experience with corporations, and their data system sucked. So I get that somebody could come in with a better system for data and would make the business work better. But I don't see how Palantir's business model translates to growth. With Tesla, it's a business to consumer business. And I can see Starlink is a business to consumer business, that there are customers who want that service or that product, and I can see the potential for growth. I can't personally visualize how corporations will use Palantir, how many corporations will sign on to this, what value it brings to a corporation. I just don't grok that. Grok, for those who are not familiar with grok. I don't fully grok how that's going to work and how that makes money and how that gets growth for Palantir and makes them a big company. It's not that I think Palantir. I love Peter Thiel. I'm a fan of Peter Thiel. Seasteading Institute, the fact that he funded Palantir with a Roth IRA. I think Peter Thiel's brilliant. I just don't get it. And I honestly, I ask a lot of people about Palantir, and I feel like a lot of other people talk about Palantir, but they don't get it either. It's really striking that I think very few people, again, I'm not negative on Palantir. I don't know. I'm negative on Lucid Motors because I think I do know. I'm questioning Rivian because I think I know, because I want a pickup. I want a luxury sedan. I own a sedan. I can relate to the customers in those markets. It's harder, keep in mind SpaceX doing, orbital launch missions. I don't really understand the business model for SpaceX just on orbital launch. I don't understand the business model for Mars. I think I understand the business model for Mars is Elon's the customer. I think that's it. So, all right. So let me move on. Let's see. So I did the moon, and then I just want to cover really quickly. Scott Manley talked about, hang on a second. I want to make this a little narrower. Scott Manley talked about spin launch, which is working on what's called an orbital accelerator. It's a device that will, using spin, launch something at a certain velocity so that it will be able to get into orbit. And Elon responded to this. The idea is you have something on the Earth's surface that gets something up to a really high velocity and lets it go, and it goes up out of the Earth's atmosphere into space. And Elon points out that linear accelerator would be great for the moon. I did read, by the way, this is a good book. I've read The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. That's a great book. I agree with Elon. I read it. I loved it. Also very good if you have anarchism tendencies. Moon is a Harsh Mistress has sort of like an anarchism environment. It's kind of interesting how, I think it's Heinlein, how he describes life, how society works on a basically anarchic society there. But a linear accelerator would be great for the moon, but Earth's gravity is too high and the atmosphere is too dense for accelerators to be a good solution versus reusable boosters, in Elon's opinion. The problem is, as you launch your projectile out of your accelerator, it's in the lowest part of the Earth's atmosphere, which is the thickest part of the Earth's atmosphere, and it tends to heat up. It tends to get a lot of resistance from the atmosphere, so it's a challenge to make that work. Lulu says, Peter Thiel is a sociopath? That's just silly. Peter Thiel is part of I don't think Elon and Peter don't get along. I think Peter Thiel and Elon get along fine. They're both successful, brilliant guys who have got great ideas, and they're doing great things. I don't know where this Peter Thiel hate is coming from. I think Peter Thiel's awesome. And I don't understand that. I think these guys worked together, did great work together, and I don't have any sense that there's a tiff between Elon and Peter Thiel. But let's move on to Elon. Just a couple of quick things. So Bernie Sanders said, we must demand that the extremely, this is like Bernie Sanders is like a broken record. We must demand that the extremely wealthy pay their fair share, period. And Elon responds, I keep forgetting that you're still alive. Elon just loves torturing political blowhards. Robert Reich, Bernie Sanders, whoever. What was the guy, Ron Wyden? So Elon says, you want me to sell more stock, Bernie? Just say the word. Elon is just, he's just poking him. Elon, wealthy, this is one of those things, like I don't like to get into politics here, but I'm gonna get into politics a little bit here. Wealthy people pay more taxes than poor people. Roughly half of people in America pay zero income tax. Roughly, let's say it again, roughly half of the people in America, the poorest people in America, pay zero income tax. I pay a fair amount of income tax, but people who make more money than me pay a lot more taxes than I do. And the wealthiest people, the top 1%, let's say, pay like 40 or 50% of the taxes. It's crazy. I don't even remember the exact number, but it's crazy how much money. Peter Thiel may become the Bernie socialist crowd. Yes, yes. Dan Abe asks, will Starlink be used for more than internet? Will there be a Tesla Starlink smartphone? So, as I understand it, if you see the antenna, let me pull that in. Hang on. Let me just pull this up. Can I get this? Here we go. Okay, so this, let me hide that. This is the, give me a second here. Okay, so this is the Starlink antenna right here. It's much larger than a phone. It is this size for a reason. The wavelength of the radio signals that come from the Starlink satellite are such that you need a large antenna to capture the signal. A cell phone is too small to be able to work with that wavelength. The cell phone antenna is not big enough to be able to work with that wavelength. So the idea that, and this is something I believe Ellie in Space Channel, I think she's going to interview me this week. We're going to talk about the idea of a Tesla phone or a SpaceX phone or something like that. I don't think there's going to be a Tesla phone. I don't think there's going to be a phone interacting directly with Starlink. It doesn't make sense. The physics doesn't work for the Starlink satellite. Now, there's a theory that you create a base station using Starlink to connect to the internet and or voice over IP. And that base station, now you put a 5G tower on it, you use the Starlink connectivity to serve cell phone users. I'm not sure whether the bandwidth of one Starlink antenna is enough to sustain a lot of cell phone connections. I think it's not. You know, maybe 20, maybe 100, but it's not going to be. I don't think it's. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's enough to really sustain. You know, could it supplement a cell phone network? Maybe. Is it going to be the backbone of a whole new cell phone network? I don't think so. And look, Elon uses an iPhone. You can see Elon tweets from an iPhone. Does Tesla have some plan to make a better phone? If you follow Elon's approach, he finds businesses that have stopped innovating in a meaningful way, and where he thinks that they can introduce an innovation that will do 10x better or more than what's being done already. So Boring Company, they figured out how to do tunnels more than 10x better than how tunnels were done before. SpaceX figured out how to launch rockets more than 10x better than how they were done before. The cost of getting a payload to orbit, now 1/10 of what it was before, and I think it's going to be 1/10 of that again, 1/50th of that. You know, massive gain. What is Tesla going to do that's going to make phones 10 times better? I don't see. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm saying I don't see it. Elon's never talked about it. It doesn't seem like something that Elon's interested in doing. Phones are pretty good. Phones have gotten a lot better. I've seen no hint that Elon wants to do that. So, I wanted to see. So about one of the interesting things about Elon's share sale, Dave Lee was tweeting about the sales, and he said, Dave Lee said it's possible that Elon is selling existing common shares to increase the kind of taxes he's giving the government. It would be kind of crazy, but something Elon might do. And Elon said a careful observer might note that my low basis share sale rate significantly exceeds my 10B high basis option exercise rate, thus closer to tax maximization than minimization. And Dave Lee says, amazing tax maximization strategy, something literally no billionaire would do. It's not clear why Elon decided to pay a lot of more taxes than he needs to. I suspect that he just doesn't care. He has so much money, so much wealth. Not money, he has so much wealth. He's gaining so much wealth. Over the future, as Tesla grows, as SpaceX grows, as Boring Company grows, he's going to have such insane amounts of wealth. And I would say maybe, I'm not sure, I'm certain about this, but maybe selling these shares now means when he does shares in the future, he'll be selling shares with a higher basis. And so he'll pay less in taxes later. And if you anticipate that tax rates will be higher in the future, you'd want to incur your higher taxes now so you get lower taxes later. That's a theory. If he's anticipating higher taxes in the future, you'd want to pay more taxes now at what's effectively a lower rate, so that when they raise the rates later, you'll pay less taxes later. That's a theory. Or maybe he just doesn't care. Elon doesn't give a fuck. Maybe. So another little detail here. Gail from Austin talked about Elon's homes being used as a tax vector against him, so he chose to stay with friends or live in a prefabricated home by Boxable. This is a popular but false story that people have been saying that Elon lives in a Boxable home at Starbase. It is not true. Elon says he's been living in a $50,000 house in South Texas for the past 2 years, not Boxable. But he says Boxable is a cool product. Because it feels more homey to live in a small house. Ellie and I went to Boca Chica Village, where Elon, I believe, stays. We didn't go to Elon's house, but we went and looked. We looked inside another house in Boca Chica Village. I didn't notice the Boxable home. I was told that Elon has some stuff in the Boxable home. But I tweeted to Galliano from Boxable that, hey, you better do your IPO right away because you just got some really good. Elon just said you have a cool product. Now, I personally am a skeptic about Boxable. They've made prototypes. They haven't gone to production yet. They haven't delivered products to customers yet. They've raised a lot of money, but they haven't delivered products to customers yet. So I'd like to see Boxable deliver products to customers. This is primarily a California thing. It's not really a mass market thing yet. I personally don't think the business model for Boxable, and there's also Sonderpod. I interviewed Sonderpod. It's a similar business. There's a bunch of these companies making what are called accessory dwelling units, ADUs, for the California market. I don't think it scales worldwide. It'd be interesting to see if somebody can actually take what they're doing and make it, number one, Boxable hasn't scaled at all. Sonderpod is working in small volumes. It would be interesting to see, first of all, can you scale to serve the California market in the first place? And then can you scale this and find a way to extend this to doing larger homes for people in other places at a reasonable price? Because I don't think they're that cheap, and I don't think they're that easy to do. I think there's a lot of potential in this space, but I don't see it yet. I do want to see that kind of innovation. I think that would be a great thing for Tesla to do, to build homes, but I think Elon feels he has enough on his plate. So let's see how we're doing on the stream. Over 1,000 viewers. Thank you for watching. Covered that already. Oh, what am I doing? I think that's it. Okay, so let's move on to Lucid Motors. Everybody knows I am Lucid Q. I am the world's leading critic of Lucid Motors. Lucid is working on trying to prove me wrong. I don't think they're really thinking about me, but they're trying to prove me wrong or make a dent. So Lucid delivered vehicles to customers in Chicago and to West Palm Beach, Florida. So they tweeted ahead that they were going to be doing deliveries around the country this weekend. So far, they've delivered in 2 cities, West Palm Beach, Florida, and Chicago, Illinois. Not clear how many they delivered to customers versus delivering to employees or to their own shops. So I do have, though, this is from a friend of mine who knows Mark Templeton. Mark Templeton is the former CEO of Citrix. Mark Templeton took a delivery of a Lucid Motors Lucid Air Dream Edition in West Palm Beach yesterday. So they're making deliveries. I remain skeptical of Lucid Motors. They have proved me wrong a little bit by delivering vehicles to customers in a very, very small volume. Now, they had their delivery event 2 weeks ago. More than 2 weeks ago. It was like October 29th. So it was a little more than 2 weeks ago. They had a delivery event. where they delivered, as far as I can tell, 5 or 6 cars to actual customers as opposed to employees. Then there's a gap. It's like, look, if you're a going business, you don't just deliver cars at delivery events, you start delivering cars to customers on a daily basis. And there was this window where nothing was delivered for about 2 weeks. And so yesterday, a little more than 2 weeks after the first delivery event, they had a delivery event where they delivered some small number of cars to a small number of people. Jim Whitehead says, I met a rich guy in a plane who showed me how he bought Lucid 2 weeks before the first deliveries and doubled his money. Yeah, well, look, the stock has risen. I think it was partly rose on the back of Rivian's IPO. It's not really clear. Hi, Lulu. Thank you for your support. S-Work says not one customer has gone online that's taking delivery to show their cars up. There's a Twitter account, Tesla2, Lucid2. The guy's name is Dr. Terrace. He has shown off his vehicle a little bit on Twitter. There's a guy. I agree. There hasn't been much from new Lucid owners on YouTube for sure. We haven't seen a lot. But I still think that there's some questions here. There's the fundamental, whether, like, I've been accusing them of being fraudulent, and maybe my fraud story is starting to fade. I still think it might be a fraud. But the fundamental questions are: can they make the cars at scale? Can they produce in volume? And can they find customers at the price point that they're selling at? I don't think they can do either one. That's my fundamental underlying criticism. But I do want to say what's coming up with Lucid that's really important, I just put this on the screen here, is tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, Lucid has their earnings call. It's the first earnings call. We're going to get their financials. We're going to see how much money they've spent. How much cash do they have left? They had about $4.5 billion in cash after their SPAC merger. How much was gone as of September 30th, 2021? Now, they waited 45 days to do their earnings call. They didn't do Tesla would have done their earnings call, let's say the 22nd of October. Okay. Now they waited to do their earnings call till after the delivery events started. And that means we won't see significant revenue or any revenue in the earnings documents, right? They held their deliveries until after the end of September. And so they don't book any revenue. And I don't think they book any revenue until they actually deliver the cars. So it is going to be interesting to look at their financials. And what this means is the really important financials from Lucid. Like the people are like, oh, Warren, you've got to give up on Lucid now. You're Lucid Q now. Like, no, they've got to demonstrate viability as a business at some point, and we need to see some numbers from them. And the viability, the real earnings report that's going to matter is going to be February 15th. If they delay again 45 days like they did this call. They didn't do the earnings call before the delivery event because they wanted to get their delivery events in and get their success before this earnings comes out. And I'm going to bet you that they're going to downplay this earnings story. And we'll see what happens. This is not going to be great news for Lucid no matter what because they don't have any revenue yet. So that'll be interesting. Ben says John from Autoline Network was able to test drive the car. He loved it, impressed with motor torque. Look, there have been some journalist drives of the Lucid Air, and there have been a few vehicles that have been driven and they've liked them. We still don't know for sure whether the battery pack is really 118 kilowatt hours as Lucid claims or 138.6 kilowatt hours as I claim. We don't know. We haven't seen a teardown. We haven't seen Green the Only get his hands on one to hack the system and see if he can figure it out. I don't know if he cares about it. But this is a big deal. So if you're interested in Lucid Motors, whether you're a Lucid Q like me or you're a Lucid fan, you want to listen to this earnings call. You want to see their documents from their earnings. So I'm expecting sometime after 4 p.m. tomorrow Eastern. So about 26 hours from now, 27 hours from now, we're going to get the financials. We're going to have the earnings call. Are they going to take questions? Are there any analysts who want to ask questions? They're not taking questions as far as I can tell from retail investors. Now, new company, barely started, okay, but you're also a $72 billion company. Tesla was doing earnings calls with analysts when they were less than $72 billion valuation. So that's an interesting little detail. So, all right, so that's Lucid, and I guess we're ready to go to Q&A. So we have a question from Martin. Am I worried about Chinese car manufacturers that are state-backed? No, I'm not worried about Chinese car manufacturers at all. So There are about, I don't know, 80, 90 million cars a year sold, and 1 or 2 million of them are electric vehicles. Any new EV manufacturer, state-backed EV manufacturer in China, whatever, they're not competing with Tesla. We're all competing together, the Teslas and Lucids and Rivians and Neos and BYDs, all competing together against ICE, against internal combustion engine vehicles to displace them. There's somewhere down the road, a long time from now, 5, 10 years from now or longer, when there are enough EVs out there and internal combustion engine vehicles are gone, that internal combustion engine vehicles compete with each other. Right now, they don't really compete with each other. They compete with internal combustion engine cars. There aren't enough EVs to satisfy the demand. We need more EVs. Johnny Mack asks, are the Panasonic 4680 batteries the same tabless design that Tesla is pioneering? We don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it's the same design that Tesla's pioneering. I think it's that format and it's a useful battery, but it may not be as good as a Tesla 4680. Did I discuss the Sawyer Merritt teaser video? I don't know what you're referring to with the Sawyer Merritt teaser video, so I know. I follow Sawyer, but I don't think I saw that. When is Boring Company Tunnel getting started in Florida from John Bay? So the Fort Lauderdale City Council accepted Tesla's proposal, rejected 2 competing proposals as not complying with whatever their standards were for the competing proposals, and voted to continue negotiations with Boring Company. So there is ongoing negotiations between the Boring Company and the city of Fort Lauderdale to build a loop system, a Boring Company tunnel system from downtown Fort Lauderdale to the beach along Las Olas Boulevard. I have an interview on my channel with Mayor Trantalis, Dean Trantalis. You can watch that interview. I don't have anything really new other than that city council vote to update, but I think the interview with Mayor Trantalis was really good, so check that out. X-Ray Dwayne asks about Tesla drivers renting from Hertz and their profiles being their existing profile going into the vehicle. Elon said that will happen. He asked if there's any truth to this. Elon said that's going to happen. So, will Giga Berlin open? I think Giga Berlin will start delivering cars in the first quarter of 2022. Will the German government interfere? Sure. I think the big question is, will all the environmentalists who say they care about the climate and say they hate fossil fuels, will they be showing up in Germany and protesting if the German government stalls Tesla's factory? I'm going to say if they're not hypocrites, they will start protesting the German government's impairment of Tesla's ability to produce electric vehicles. If they don't show up and make a big deal about the German government interfering, then they're a bunch of hypocrites. And I'm talking to Greta Thunberg, and I'm talking to Bernie Sanders and whoever. If you actually care about electric vehicles, Joe Biden, whoever, Angela Merkel, if you actually care about electric vehicles and climate change and all the stuff you claim you care about, Elon Musk is trying to do something about it. What are you doing about it when they're trying to stop him? Yeah, I would love to see a Monroe teardown of Lucid Air, or any teardown. Let's see. I'm just looking for questions here. If you have questions, please put them in the chat window. And thank you for watching. Thanks to the Vasa Law Firm. Check out the stainless steel water bottle. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. When do I think Giga Austin construction will be complete, from Brooke Chen? So major construction, Elon said, will be done in a few months. I think that means the exterior walls of the building will be complete, and the heavy equipment that's dangerous to walk around will be gone within a few months. There will still be construction going on inside the building in various places for probably more than a year, because there's different things that are going to be going on inside the factory walls. I hope that answers that question. There are reports of an alleged FSD-caused accident. There's reports, someone filed a report of an FSD-caused accident, but the report did not make sense, because I drive FSD Beta, and there's a claimed FSD Beta-caused accident, which the person is claiming that he disengaged and the vehicle overpowered him. That is just fundamentally not the way FSD Beta works. It is very easy to... Sometimes I accidentally overpower FSD Beta on the steering wheel. You're supposed to hold the wheel with some degree of force so that you're letting the car know that you're paying attention. And sometimes I accidentally disengage the car because I guess I use a little too much force and I'm not even trying. So the idea that you could someone would physically try to disengage and the car would overpower them is just like nonsense. So I think that's a fake report. Will I consider buying Tesla Leap calls? I get asked these questions all the time about options. I just don't play options. I buy stock and I hold it. I do think in the next 2 or 3 months, I'm going to free up some money from an account and I will be able to invest a big chunk of money, buy another bunch of shares. I am playing, but I just buy and hold. See what happens to Tesla stock in the meantime, but pretty sure that in 2 or 3 months, maybe less. I'm hoping by the end of this year, so less than 2 months, I will be freed up to buy a chunk more Tesla stock, but not options. Options are too complicated. The way the markets work, the way Wall Street games things, everything that happens, I don't. It's too complicated. It's really simple. Buy Tesla stock. For me, I buy Tesla stock. I hold it. I've made a ridiculous amount of money in terms of dollar value holding Tesla stock, buying Tesla stock and holding it. That works for me. I don't need to do options. Options are for other people. Can you do backstories for the other heads of SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, and Boring Company? Well, SpaceX, if you haven't read it, the book Lift Off by Eric Berger does a great, pretty much has the backstory of all of the people running, all the people at SpaceX, a lot of the people at SpaceX. Gwynne Shotwell in particular, but there's a bunch of people at SpaceX that have been covered. Gwynne Shotwell is the other main head of SpaceX now. There's another guy, name is not coming to me, but there's another guy who's really big on the engineering side. A lot of great people at SpaceX. I've met some people from SpaceX, great people, wonderful people. That's where the Innovate with Extreme Urgency comes from. It comes from Elon talking to everyday astronaut at Starbase. Other heads of Tesla, the 2 other key employees at Tesla are Drew Baglino and Zach Kirkhorn. Zach Kirkhorn, I believe, was an intern at Tesla, in the finance department, and decided to, or at least a mid-level employee, business, office, finance type employee at Tesla, decided to go get his MBA. I think Elon didn't want him to, but he went and got his MBA, came back, and now he's CFO of Tesla. And he led the Q3 investor call. And Drew Baglino has been an engineer with Tesla for, I think it's more than 10 years. I think he's one of the fairly early employees. He is the lead engineer for Tesla when Elon's not there. He is clearly leading on the battery factory side of things. I think I have met Drew. Really enjoyed talking to Drew. I got to talk to Drew for about a half hour. It was one of the best moments of my life. Outside of things like having children and a wedding and all that stuff. Some personal things. Getting the chance to speak to Drew Baglino was just absolutely spectacular. I got to speak to Franz von Holzhausen at the same time. Franz is the main designer of vehicles at Tesla, including Cybertruck. That was great. I got to speak to both of them at the same time. Absolutely fantastic. Neuralink, Max Hodak was the head of Neuralink, and he left the company. I don't know about the backstory. I know he's working on some other interesting project, and we'll see where that goes. There's a couple other key people at Neuralink. I don't know that I can do a backstory on the heads of Neuralink. Boring Company, Steve Davis is I think he's officially the CEO. He was a SpaceX employee. He's actually described, at least briefly, in the book Liftoff. So he's doing a great job. Will Lucid be bought by a major automaker like GM as a luxury brand? It doesn't make sense to me, and I don't think GM could afford to buy Lucid. Lucid is a $72 billion market cap. I don't think GM or Ford could afford to buy Lucid at this point. Maybe Apple could afford to buy them, but there's a fundamental problem there. Lucid's a pig. If I'm right? You got a $170,000 car. There's a limited market for that. Can you produce it at scale? Can you, do they really have the technology they claim to have? Is it really a 140 kilowatt hour pack? Can they get the battery supply? A lot of problems. My channel asked, do I see any synergies between Tesla and Starlink? I could see I believe that Starlinks are being used at Supercharger stations. I believe that Starlinks will make sense at Megapack installations. I think Starlink has a lot of potential for connectivity that in locations where it's hard to get good connectivity, it makes sense for Tesla to use Starlink for those purposes. It doesn't make sense to put Starlinks in cars because, not to say that you're prohibited from putting one in the back of your Cybertruck, but you don't really need it in most of the circumstances. It's not a good use of the Starlink, other than, let's say, you're going camping, or you're going to sleep in your car and you want really good connectivity when you're out in the middle of nowhere. Let's see. Have I shared my Tesla valuation models at any point available on Patreon? I do share my Tesla spreadsheets, my Tesla valuation spreadsheets on Patreon occasionally. I don't have any recently. I think my older ones are on there somewhere. Martin Muldoon asks, have I modeled Tesla insurance? I have not modeled Tesla insurance. I think the long run for Tesla insurance is it ends up being a zero. It's important in the short run because it makes it less expensive to own a Tesla because your insurance costs are lower. There's a lot of other advantages of Tesla insurance, but in the long run, when the cars start driving themselves, then you don't need insurance anymore because the car is when the car is driving itself, Tesla is responsible. So you no longer have liability for the car when the car is driving itself. So to me, in the long run, Tesla insurance becomes a zero. So I'm modeling out to 2030 usually. So by 2030, I expect that Tesla insurance will be a zero or near zero or a trivial compared to the value of Robotaxi compared to the value of Tesla bot. How can I buy SpaceX? Go to Shares Post or EquityZen, and you can look for opportunities to buy into SpaceX. Very difficult to do though. And the terms for buying SpaceX are difficult. Will 4680 cells be exclusive to Tesla, or will suppliers be able to sell them to other EV manufacturers? I don't think that they're prohibited from selling 4680 to other manufacturers. I think the deal is that Tesla said, we'll buy every one you make. So I think Tesla may have first dibs, but if they can produce enough that Tesla can't use them all, then yeah, they can sell them to others. But I don't believe anyone else is preparing to use 4680 cells. It's not that Tesla is going to stop somebody from selling a 4680 to someone else. No one else is making vehicles or products that will use 4680 cells, so there's nobody else who wants them. At some point, will some other vehicle manufacturer say, hey, there's all these 4680 cells out there and they're better, we should start making vehicles for 4680? Sure, that'll happen, but as far as I know, it hasn't happened yet. I'm not even planning to use 4680 for my pod car. I'm planning to use lithium iron phosphate prismatic cells. If 4680, if lithium iron phosphate is made in a 4680 cell format and it's available at a reasonable price, would I use it? Sure, but I don't expect that to happen. Maybe it will happen. Who has the best battery R&D in the world now? Tesla. CATL, LG Chem. If you ask the guy's name, Jeff Don says the best battery research is happening in China. Tesla is doing great battery research. CATL is doing great battery research. LG Chem and Panasonic all doing great battery research. Samsung is doing great battery research. I don't know if you could say who's doing the best. They're all doing really interesting stuff. What's her name? There's a professor at University of Texas whose name escapes me, a Chinese woman. She's doing some great research on batteries, and she can't think of her name. Oh, I love this question. Billy Kotza says, Waymo already has robot taxis in designated areas. Are they ahead of Tesla when it comes to FSD? No. No, they have a very... I did a video about Waymo. Check my channel. Search my channel for Waymo. I did a video where we rode in Waymo in Arizona. It's pathetic. It's not enough to just make a vehicle that can drive itself in a limited area. You need to make a vehicle that can drive itself anywhere. Am I out of focus? I feel like I'm out of focus. It's like a better focus. You need to make a vehicle and drive itself anywhere. If you're limited to a limited area, then you're not really a robotaxi. You're just limited. And then, sorry. And then, you have to be able to deliver the rides at low cost, which means you have to be able to produce the rides at low cost. And Uber's, the Waymo model is too expensive. The cost per mile for Waymo is probably like $3 or $4 a mile. The cost for a Tesla for a Tesla right now is around 18 cents a mile or 15 cents a mile. So it's like insane. The cost of an Uber, the price of an Uber is like $2.50 a mile. If the cost of a Waymo to Waymo is $3 or $4 a mile, then they sell it for less, but it's not worth it. Shirley Ming, thank you. Shirley Ming is the battery researcher at University of Texas. X-Ray Dwayne says, I'm wondering why we haven't heard about thermal imaging and at least one forward-facing camera would be amazing in snowstorms, fog, etc. Tesla has tried. First of all, you drive your car without thermal imaging. You drive your car without LiDAR. You drive your car without radar, and you do okay. The problem is that when Tesla used radar, there's this sensor fusion issue, and the radar ends up being a low quality signal, and vision is good enough. At some point, somewhere, will somebody decide, hey, we figured out this particular sensor that will be better, and we've got to add this to cars? Sure. But I don't think it's thermal imaging. I don't think it's anything else. You know, is it coming? Maybe someday. What's the next chemistry? The next chemistry is higher nickel, no cobalt batteries. And then I think, you know, if QuantumScape, I am skeptical of QuantumScape, but if QuantumScape is able to deliver, then solid state, some sort of solid state chemistry is the next chemistry. I think, you know, nickel is the leader for high density. I don't think anybody's come up with a better density, critical element in battery density than nickel. Horizon asks, what's my take on the PepsiCo semi delivery in Q4? I covered that earlier in the video, somewhere up here. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it was at the beginning of the video. I think Elon kind of didn't give a completely clear answer, but I think it's pretty clear that they're not delivering any semis until next year. Let's see. Does anyone have any more regulatory details at Berlin? I think Giga Berlin is undergoing a second regulatory review that will wrap up in a week or so. And then there will be a decision made by the Berlin authorities, the German authorities, who knows when. I think manganese is still going to be... I think, Admiral Medjay, I think manganese is out for the high nickel cells with 4680 from Tesla. But I believe that they are expecting that there will be nickel manganese cells produced as well, and maybe they will produce them. But their plan was to have suppliers produce them. There's no Model 2. German asks, any news yet about Model 2? There is no Model 2. That's the news. And Model 2 is the wrong term, and there's no news about what's coming with the battery day vehicle. Any insight into how Dojo supercomputer will help Tesla solve the autonomous problem? I have videos where I talk about Dojo. What happens is the car drives, when people think the cars learn, the cars don't learn themselves. The cars drive around and experience the world, and they send their data up to training computers at the home office. And the training computers use that data to process the information and send out new training to the cars, which basically means the car has a chip in it that tells it how to react based on what pixels come through the cameras. So massively oversimplify. And the training computers that they have are already supercomputers, but the Dojo supercomputer will be much faster and much more capable than the computers they have already. So it simply accelerates the training. It allows them to train larger data sets. It allows them to train more learning in one iteration, and it allows them to do more iterations in, let's say, a week. But right now they're doing about one iteration every 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe this gets them down every 2 or 3 days. And maybe there's more learned in an iteration than there was before. So it could 10x the learning, if not more. Horizon says you guys should watch Limiting Factor. The one channel on YouTube I watch almost every video is The Limiting Factor. Highly recommend Jordan Gieseke's channel, The Limiting Factor. Great stuff on that channel. The XO video by Sawyer Merritt. Okay, I usually watch a lot of Sawyer stuff on Twitter, so thoughts on Starlink Neuralink synergy? I don't see a connection, a direct connection between Neuralink and Starlink, because unless you're going to put a phased array antenna on your head, which would be kind of awkward, you will have Bluetooth from Neuralink to your phone, and your phone will be connected to the internet. Will there be some other Bluetooth connection that connects you to some sort of Wi-Fi, or will they add Wi-Fi to Neuralink? Maybe, but they're not going to put a phased array antenna on your head as part of Neuralink, so it doesn't really work that way. You know, if you have Neuralink, if you have Starlink service in your house and you're connecting from your Neuralink by Bluetooth or Wi-Fi to the internet, then that's going through Starlink, but it's not anything special compared to Comcast or other ISPs. What's my take on Missy Cummings and her impact on FSD? Right now, Missy Cummings has no impact at all. It seems to me that there's an effort by the Biden administration to interfere with Tesla delivering self-driving vehicles, and that's why they brought Missy Cummings on board. Missy Cummings, for those who don't know, is a professor at the University of at Duke University who has been an outspoken critic of Tesla and Elon, who at one point on Twitter said she wanted to punch Elon. She's an expert witness in a case on behalf of someone suing Tesla over FSD, so she is not favorable to Tesla and FSD. But she's an advisor. Does she have any significant power? Do the bureaucrats, the technical people at the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration care what she thinks? We don't know. Martin Muldoon says, Warren, are you still convinced that the EV tax credit won't go through? I think I don't think I was ever convinced it won't go through. I think it's unlikely to go through. I made a video about how much money it could make Tesla if they did go through. Rick asked, do I think Elon will really create TITS University? Probably not. There is a proposed University of Austin that Lex Friedman is going to participate in. It's possible that Elon's going to use some of the money from his share sale to fund the University of Austin. I think the University of Austin School of Science would be funny, but I don't think the people who are founding the University of Austin want to give it a silly name, even if Elon gives them a lot of money. Let's see. So on the EV tax credit, my view is that the benefit to Tesla is greater than the benefit to everyone else. There's a lot of people lobbying to stop it. There's a key senator, Joe Manchin, who's apparently trying to stop it. So maybe it won't happen. If it does happen, it massively increases Tesla's profits. And thank you, Benjamin Sanders. Please pull up Sawyer's teaser. It's very short. Love to hear your thoughts. I'm not going to cover that today. I didn't plan on covering that today. I have a list of things that I go through, and that would be the difficulty of me making that work on a live stream is too challenging. So I'm not going to do that. But thank you for your support. And if this is why if you support me on Patreon, YouTube channel exclusive content member, or on Locals, if you support, I ask people, do you have anything you want me to address in the live stream? And if you let me know ahead of time, then I can cover it. But I can't cover it in the middle of the live stream. I don't have a Jamie, like Joe Rogan has a guy who gets everything going for him and puts something up on the screen. I don't have a guy here to do that. Joe Rogan makes millions. I make hundreds. I mean, overall, I make decent money on YouTube, but I don't make enough money to pay someone to sit here and help me manage the live stream. Do I think that EV tax credits are just giving OEMs an excuse to raise prices? Yeah, a little bit. It's not, the idea would be that the tax credit would encourage companies to increase production of EVs, but the demand is already off the charts, and it's just a question of getting enough supply. I don't see that the EV tax credits are going to accelerate battery production. I don't see that they're going to solve the chip supply problem or the supply chain problem. It is just a handout. Basically, like in Tesla too, Tesla will raise prices to capture some of the gain because they already have effectively unlimited demand. There's a question here. Do I think Elon will go on letting Tesla stock bleed, or will he surprise us? I don't know what you're talking about bleeding. The stock is over $1,000 a share. Where was it a month ago? The stock is up, not down. Is it down from a week ago? Yeah. Stocks go up, stocks go down. Elon does not care about the stock price. Doesn't care. It's a joke to him. It's not important. I'm really glad to say, I think the chat is going well. Yeah, I need Tesla bot for my live stream. When do I think the first legacy company, when do you think the first legacy company will go bankrupt? Which one goes first? The ones with the most debt. So Ford, GM, Volkswagen, Toyota, I don't know. I think there's a bunch of them, and it's hard to say, who is getting the most direct. I mean, when Cybertruck comes online and starts delivering, Model Y takes from everybody because everybody makes an SUV. But the dominant sellers of pickup trucks are Ford and Chevy, Ford and GM. So if Cybertruck comes online and they start producing 1 million Cybertrucks a year, and pickup trucks are the biggest profit source for Ford and GM, and also Stellantis. So, and maybe Stellantis is most at risk because Stellantis is Dodge and Chrysler and Jeep or whatever. If they lose their pickup truck revenue, then I don't know how they survive. But you know, I've been wrong about everything like this before, so who knows? I make double-digit thousands. That's true. How do we make a safety complaint against human drivers? But I don't make, I make hundreds on a video like this, like low hundreds, maybe 100. How do we make a safety complaint against human drivers? Yeah, good question. Will Tesla bot AI system engineered by the Dojo AI team or Neuralink neuroscientists? Neuralink neuroscientists are not engineering Tesla bot. Totally different thing. Neuralink is building a chip that is inserted into your skull that has threads that go into your brain to read neurons, read synapses and neurons, and read information and write information into the brain. Bot doesn't have a brain. Bot is a computer chip, so there's no value of having Neuralink on a bot. Totally irrelevant. The inflation bill, yeah. So, what do I think Elon plans to do with the 300-plus acre lot he recently purchased? So let's talk about that. I probably should have mentioned that in the Tesla section, although I'm not sure it's a Tesla story. So I went to Giga Texas, and Giga Texas is on this big chunk of land along a highway. I forget the name of the number of the highway. On the other side of that land, there's another lot that it's already owned by an Elon-affiliated company, and I've been told that that's going to be a SpaceX building. Maybe a SpaceX factory that maybe makes Starlinks or makes Starlink terminals, not clear, but that is apparently going to be happening soon. The land is already cleared when I was there a month or two ago. Now there's a story about an additional large chunk of land being acquired across the river from Giga Texas. I'm not even actually sure in my head where exactly the river is and where it's across from. So my guess would be that could be where the battery day vehicle factory goes. That's a guess. I'm only guessing. Could be where the Tesla bot factory goes. I don't know. Will Neuralink be obsolete after 5G DARPA hydrogel enhanced masses? I have no idea what you just said. Will Tesla earn royalty if CATL sells 4680 to other companies? I don't think so. 4680 is not... The fact that you have a 46 millimeter diameter, 80 millimeter high cylindrical battery is probably not patentable. Did Tesla license certain intellectual property to CATL in order to enable them to make 4680? I don't even know if CATL is making 4680 cells, by the way. I think they're going to be making 4680 cells. But the fact that I don't think there's any intellectual property that Tesla necessarily will have in that unless they've made a special deal with them. When will Tesla have a new model? Cybertruck will be later this year, or later next year. Will the government set a max price on an EV for incentives specifically designed to exclude Tesla? It appears no. I don't think that would work because the other companies' EVs are more expensive than Tesla's. Cybertruck is less expensive than F-150 Lightning. Model Y is roughly the same price as the Mustang Mach-E. Martin Muldoon says, Warren, why the need to go to Mars? The moon is massive. Mars is much bigger, and Mars has more resources. In particular, Mars has more water ice, and Mars has an actual atmosphere. It's a very thin atmosphere, but it has an atmosphere with CO2 in it. The moon does not have an atmosphere. I believe there's no CO2 on the moon. If you want to make rocket fuel, the plan is that they're going to use something called the Sabatier process, S-A-B-A-T-I-E-R. They're going to use water ice from Mars, and they're going to use CO2 from the Martian atmosphere, and they're going to be able to, and solar power, to generate methane and liquid oxygen to fuel starships so that starships can return back to Earth from Mars and so that starships can leave Mars and go further out into space. That is why the need to go to Mars. And also Mars has a lot more gravity. It's probably more habitable for humans. There's more potential to terraform Mars in the future. The moon has no atmosphere and probably is incapable of having an atmosphere. It may be possible to give Mars a more substantial atmosphere and make it actually habitable by humans in hundreds of years, not immediately. So, I hope that answered the question. Does Elon want to slow down Tesla gains because his engineers get rich too fast? No. When it passed 1,000, Tesla broke through a giant psychological barrier that bears said they would never hit. Oh, bears... They didn't think it was going to be $100 a share. Thoughts on EV conversion aftermarket? So Jack Rickard was doing EV aftermarket conversions, and he basically found it didn't make sense to do them anymore because Tesla is able to produce new cars for less than the cost of doing an EV market aftermarket conversion. What's the guy's name? Ron Inkowski? Ron, who I know from Clubhouse, he is thinking about doing EV aftermarket conversions for older BMWs, I think. And a friend of mine has an RV motorhome, and he's thinking about doing an EV conversion on his motorhome, but it's not something that scales. It doesn't scale. It's not going to make a meaningful impact on society if it doesn't scale. Is there a Shanghai second factory going in? Probably. I don't know if it's going to be in Shanghai or somewhere else in China, but probably. I think there will be additional factories in China. The Chinese market is huge. The Asian market is huge. Having factories in China supplies the Chinese market and supplies the rest of the Asian market, so a lot of potential there. Dave Lee says that Tesla can't do more than a 10 to 15x in the next 10 years. Your take? I did not hear Dave say that, and I don't think Dave believes that. If you watched check my channel, the last video I did about Tesla Bot, and you can see Dave talking about Tesla Bot. I think Dave likes to be conservative in his forecast of what Tesla stock is going to do, but I think he knows that Tesla could very well achieve 10 to 15x or more than 10 to 15x. If you listen to the way he talks about Tesla Bot, you know he thinks it could potentially go way beyond 10 to 15x. John Bay says, thank you for this comment. I was watching The Everyday Astronaut the other day and think Warren shows the same quality of character, being willing to answer questions over and over clearly. I can't say enough about Tim Dodd. Tim Dodd is Everyday Astronaut. I met him in person at the Plaid event. Great conversation. What I loved about the conversation more than anything else was because I watched Tim Dodd on his channel sometimes. Is the guy I talk to in person is the same guy that you see on his channel. I think if you talk to me in person, you'll find I'm the same guy that you're seeing on the channel now. I think if you watch Now You Know, I love those guys, but the way they present themselves on their channel is different than probably how they are in real life. I love Stephen Mark Ryan, but I think the way he presents himself on his channel is probably different than how he is in real life. I don't think he takes bong hits and makes comments about your mother when he's just talking to you in person. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he is that guy. There's a thing about being a YouTuber where you have to balance being informative and being entertaining. And so I lean towards the less entertaining, more informative side of things and more analytical side of things. I think other YouTubers lean toward, and I'm not saying it's bad to do the others, just this is what I feel comfortable doing. That's one of the reasons I don't watch a lot of the other YouTubers is I don't feel like I'm being informed when I watch their videos. Everyday Astronaut, I find he's a little bit entertaining, but he's very, very informative. That's the balance. Now, maybe I need to be more entertaining while being informative. Maybe that's another challenge. So what do I think of Oh, yes. Rolo Tomasi brings this up. Somebody asked me about Tesla insurance, and I meant to go there. He said, what do I think of Pierre Ferragu's valuation of Tesla insurance? If you haven't seen it, search for Pierre Ferragu. Look at you and Tesla insurance. And I don't remember what that was on. Was that on Dave Lee? I forget who interviewed. Maybe it was Rob Maurer. There was this interview he was doing where he was talking about Tesla insurance, and it was like, holy cow. The short-term impact of Tesla insurance is amazing. I don't think it's a long-term impact for the reasons I said, but the short-term impact is absolutely amazing. Admiral Medjay, thank you for your comment on my pod car renderings. We got a ways to go, and renderings are great, but we got to get the prototype built, and that's, hopefully in the spring we'll have a prototype. Do I have updates on Tesla Solar Roof? I haven't heard. The one thing I heard about Tesla Solar Roof, and I don't think this is new, is that they're now, I think Tesla's decided it's too difficult to do on existing roofs, and they're pushing Solar Roof more towards new home builders. I'm sure they're going to continue to honor their commitment to people who ordered them, but they've realized that it may be, I actually don't know that I agree with this business strategy. I think, but it may be that it makes more sense to do Solar Roof on new homes rather than existing homes. Personally, when I look at the numbers, it makes more sense to do solar panels on existing homes on a regular roof, and Solar Roof maybe, and Solar Roof makes sense on very simple roofs. If the homes are designed to have very simple roofs, which the roofs look boring, like people who have rich, expensive houses, the house that I own is an expensive house, and people who have expensive houses want their house to look interesting. And that leads to complex roofs. And there's other reason why the roofs are complex. And solar roof does not work well on complex roofs. It gets very expensive. Any updates on my home designs? No, the solar farm apartments is on hold a little bit until I'm really focusing on the pod car for now. And I'm waiting for some personal stuff to get resolved. And then I'm going to move forward with both and more accelerated. When will Tesla insurance expand globally? I think it has to cover the US first. I think it's a long way from expanding globally. Thank you, Laurie Apple, for saying I'm entertaining. It's not that I'm not entertaining. It's that I don't go out of my way to be entertaining. I don't take bong hits and make jokes about your mother, right? That's a Stephen Mark Ryan way. Now has all this cute stuff where they, do little acting bits in there. I don't really do that. So I don't try to be entertaining. Bong rips, yeah. It was on Rob Maurer, yeah. Thank you, Rolo. That was brilliant. What? Just looking to see if there's any questions that I missed. Jim Whitehead says, on Mars, they may store batteries of tanks of methane and liquid oxygen and burn them slowly to generate electricity at night. It's an interesting idea. I don't know, Jim. It sounds good. I don't know whether that makes sense or not. When will the 25K vehicle come? So the battery day vehicle, which I don't like the $25,000 price point. I think it's going to cost Tesla a lot less to build it, and they may not ultimately sell it without FSD, so it's all, or sell it at all. So it's going to cost a lot more. Price is going to be a lot higher. But I believe that the battery day vehicle factories will start being built in late 2022 or early 2023. Maybe they will start selling or delivering the vehicles in 2023, but my guess is with all the supply chain holdups, that may be pushed to 2024. Another theory is that's the really important vehicle that Tesla's working on, so maybe that vehicle doesn't get delayed and other things get delayed in its place. I don't know. Bobby says, I heard they bring in raw materials at one end of the factory and the Tesla cars come out the other end. Is that true? It is somewhat true. Some partially finished parts come in as well, but they do try to get as much done as possible with raw materials, minimize the distance that the molecules have to travel to make things work. How are we doing on time? 2:30. I think the tabless design is patented. No, I would imagine the tabless design is patented, but I don't think that other 4680s have to use tabless. And they could license the tabless design to others, especially if they're going to supply batteries to Tesla. So I think some of the 4680s will be produced with LFP. I think it makes sense in the long run to make 4680 based LFP batteries, or LFP batteries in the 4680 format. But I don't know if they're going to do that. I think they're going to do that because I think that makes structural pack work. But it would make sense to me that the battery day vehicle has 4680 cells in LFP format in a structural pack. That makes sense to me that that's the way it would work. But that doesn't mean I'm right. 130 Toll Road, that's right, yeah. Do I think that Tesla really is constrained by chip shortages? Yes, I think that chip shortages are affecting everybody. I think they're affecting Tesla less, but they still are having an impact. I think there's a lot of different supply chain shortages in a lot of different areas. People have oversimplified it to say there's a chip supply problem. There's a lot of different problems in the supply chain, not just chips. Chips are just one of the problems. Oh, somebody asked about the... Oh, no, I think I covered that already. Let's just see. Ben Pena says, I keep thinking that the pod car would be perfect for smaller boring tunnels. Yeah, actually, I believe that the pod car would be perfect for the existing boring company tunnel system, that you would be able to fit 2 vehicles in a lane. And actually, the real bottleneck in the boring system is potentially the stations, because there's a certain number of bays that the vehicles pull into. And if you use pod cars, then the bays can be smaller, so you can squeeze more pod cars into the stations. Are other companies making 4680s also making them tablets? We don't know that. We don't know that. Panasonic is the one company I know of that is working on 4680 for sure. I think LG Chem and CATL are also working on them. We don't know whether they're tablets or not. That information has not been made public. Jose Marquez asks, are legacy more well-positioned to compete with Tesla or new companies born pure EV? I think legacy automakers, the Volkswagens and Toyotas and GMs and Fords, are absolutely not positioned to compete with new EVs. Their business structure, their bureaucracy, their unions, their dealership, their political connections, everything actually works against them for the innovation that's needed to make EVs work. Bill Robinson asks about Cybertruck potential increased pricing at launch. I think Cybertruck has to have an increased price. So I have an order in for a $50,000 Cybertruck dual motor. I think they're going to have to increase price of Cybertruck. I think that the dual motor will end up being 60,000 or more. The tri-motor will be 90,000 or more. It just, that unless something really radical changes in the supply chain and the cost of materials goes down, which Elon has said they're seeing massive inflation, and at least in the short term, the cost of the materials that are going into Cybertruck are going to go up so fast that they're going to have to raise prices. When do I think the Vegas boring project will be done? Well, okay, there's the 29 miles or so that's planned now that my guess will be done in a couple of years. Yes. I think that the Vegas boring project won't really be done at that point. I think we're going to see an expansion of that project beyond the initial stage. I think it will end up getting bigger than what we're going to see at first. I think that ultimately cities like Las Vegas will have 100 miles of tunnel, not 29. Do I think that when Starlink and Boring IPO that they will not be priced affordably like Rivian? Well, I don't know what the term affordable means. I think that Starlink's IPO will be in a couple years, and I don't want to talk about the share price because affordable sounds like, will it be affordable to buy one share? What will the market cap be when they IPO? If you ask me, Starlink is going to have an IPO valuation of more than $200 billion. But, it depends when they IPO. My valuation of Starlink is it's a $1 to $5 trillion company when it's fully ramped, fully scaled, if not more. So, paying $200 billion and IPOing at $200 billion in market cap would be low. So I would consider that affordable. Maybe you don't. Boring Company, I don't know what's going on with Boring Company. I don't think the market sees the value in Boring Company the way they see it in Elon's other companies. I don't think I think Elon might just, if Elon doesn't think he can get money and sufficient funding in an IPO, he might just fund it himself and make the, because he owns almost all the Boring Company, or fund it through venture capitalists. Battery pack size comparison between Cybertruck and Hummer. I don't know the Hummer's size battery pack. Isn't it like 200 kilowatt hours? I think Cybertruck's going to have, well, there's 3 different Cybertrucks. So I think the tri-motor will be 140 kilowatt hours maybe. The dual motor will be 120 kilowatt hours, maybe 110 kilowatt hours, maybe even 100. And then the single motor will be like 80 kilowatt hours or less. That's what I think. Thank you, John Bay. Will Starlink eventually replace GPS? Asking because U.S. government probably won't like that. I don't think so. See, Starlink doesn't work for GPS because the GPS device has a small antenna, and small antennas don't work with the Starlink wavelength. Yes, Jim, exactly. Starlink is one of the ways that Elon is able to fund the Mars mission. Do I think that Kathy Wood's $3,000 per share is being conservative in 2025? I think $3,000 a share is conservative today. I think Tesla stock is worth more than $3,000 today. Today. So yes, I think Kathy Wood's number is conservative for 2025. What am I going to do with the pod car prototypes if FSD is delayed? So the pod car prototype will not use FSD. The pod car prototype will use like a remote control. I don't expect to deploy full self-driving on the pod car until the pod car is ready to be manufactured at scale, which is 2 or 3 years away. And if it happens that FSD is delayed at that point, then the pod car will be delayed until FSD is ready. Because the pod car is designed for FSD, and it doesn't matter if I have to wait. It's not a big deal. Is there a current ICE vehicle that would make a good EV? I think that misunderstands the whole point about EVs. The whole point is that you want to engineer a vehicle to be an EV, and so no ICE vehicles are built wrong. I should be clear. I think the Cybertruck price of the truck This is Benico says, Cybertruck order agreement states that the price is subject to change. The price of the vehicle is subject to change, but if you bought FSD as part of your order, then your FSD price is locked in. Do I think Tesla has or will have a ceiling on delivery dates and keep raising prices to keep delivery dates below a certain threshold? I think they will keep raising prices as long as the demand exceeds supply. Do I still buy Tesla shares? I don't have any powder. I don't have any dry powder right now. I'm expecting by the end of the year, early next year, that I will be buying another chunk of Tesla stock. I absolutely intend to buy more Tesla stock. If please, super chats, super stickers. If I make more money making YouTube videos and I'm making enough that I can afford it, then I will buy Tesla stock with the extra money. I'm living inexpensively. This is an inexpensive place that I'm living in. I did buy a Tesla Model 3, but it's very inexpensive to operate a Tesla Model 3. I eat at home almost all the time. I cook for myself. I live cheap. And, I am planning to save up money to buy more Tesla stock if I can. Saw a video about Elon. Basically, every decision is, will this get us to Mars faster? Elon's trying to get home. I don't know if it's quite that simple, but one of Elon's larger goals is to make Earth, human life, humanity, multi-planet species, and getting us to Mars helps do that. I feel like this. Where's my? All right, let me try this. I feel like my focus keeps changing. Let's see. I don't know if you guys think I'm going out of focus. I feel like I'm going out of focus. So true, there's new Tesla car color choices coming. I think Giga Berlin and Giga Texas are going to have new paint systems that may lead to new car color choices being available. Yes. I don't know, but I think that it's likely. Is it true you don't need an internet connection for Starlink to work? Starlink is your internet connection. I don't understand that question. Yes, you can get Starlink internet by just pointing Starlink at the sky. Starlink is the internet connection. Do I fish too? No, I do not fish. What's outside the simulation? Another simulation, obviously. Where do you think most Tesla peeps will retire? Is it Starbase Austin, Florida? A lot of Tesla people are moving a lot of Tesla peeps are moving to Austin, Texas. Not Starbase, Austin. Austin is the #1 destination for Elon fans and Tesla fans, and I am looking at moving to Austin in a couple of years, maybe. I'm also looking at the Canaveral area because I love Canaveral. I love that area. I like being in Florida for various reasons, personal reasons, etc. I'm actually considering New Hampshire, which has nothing to do with this. Considering Japan, who knows? Lots of possibilities. D Nice says that I'm not living cheap. I'm living conservative. That's real wealth. I just don't. I go out to eat, but I don't like going. I don't go out drinking. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke pot. I don't have a lot of things that I crave spending money on. I do like going out to a nice meal, but right now I'm trying to lose weight. So if I go out and have a fancy meal, then I'm screwing the plan to lose weight. If you haven't noticed, I've lost 20 pounds. I've been exercising more. I've got all this exercise equipment in this space. And I actually went to a gym for the first time in forever today. And I may start going to a gym regularly. I haven't figured out which gym yet. Just tried LA Fitness today. I really feel like the focus is... I got to work on this focus. I'll figure that out. Tim Dillon says Austin is a dump. Austin is not a dump. Austin is a blast. Austin is absolutely... Will Tesla buy QuantumScape? No. Why would Tesla buy QuantumScape? This is the thing about QuantumScape, okay? So Tesla's 4680 high nickel cell is better than almost anything Tesla needs a battery cell for, okay? The Plaid Model S uses an 18650, relatively old-style nickel-based cell, and it is the fastest production car in the history of the world. Right? So you can deliver a high-performance sedan without 4680. Tesla's making Model 3s and Model Ys right now, great vehicles without 4680. The 4680 is going to enable certain things, and it's going to enable a lighter weight, more efficient Model Y. It's going to enable Semi to work. It's going to enable Cybertruck Tri-Motor with 500 miles of range. But most of the things that Tesla is doing, Megapack, Powerwall, standard range Model 3s and Model Ys and so on, 4680 is unnecessary. So coming up with a battery that's even higher energy density and more expensive, because that's the problem with QuantumScape, is will it be more expensive than Tesla's 4680 high nickel cell? Because, you know, the cost is the critical driver. It's not the energy density. Energy density matters for certain things, like if you want to do electric VTOL or Tesla semi, it matters. But if you can't deliver the cells in high volume at low cost, then you haven't done much. So I don't see QuantumScape being a concern yet. When do I think a Starlink phone will actually become realistic? When people start carrying around phones that are this large? The antenna has to be this big. Doesn't work for a phone. Oh, Chi-Town says, do I know anything on Shift 4, ticker symbol FOUR, deal with SpaceX Starlink? I saw that, for those who do, I probably should have covered this. Jared Isaacman, who did the Inspiration 4 launch, led the Inspiration 4 launch team. He's a billionaire who owns a company that does payments, and apparently Shift 4 is his company, has made a deal with SpaceX to do payments for Starlink. And that is potentially a very valuable deal for them. I don't know how much of an impact. I haven't looked at Shift 4 to analyze the company to see how much of an impact it has on them overall. What is my estimate for the 4680 release batteries? I think that 4680 batteries are already being produced and will be in vehicles in the first quarter of 2022. That's what Drew Baglino said. Comments. So somebody says he enjoyed the Lucid and Rivian compare and contrast. Comments on Polestar or Fisker. Fisker is vaporware. I don't think, I'm not convinced that Fisker is going to produce a car. We'll see. Am I going out of focus? I feel like I'm out of focus a lot. I haven't noticed anybody saying that. Polestar has a vehicle, is delivering a vehicle. It's roughly a competitor to the Model Y or to internal combustion engine vehicles that compete with the Model Y. It's not as good as the Model Y. I hope they succeed in producing it at scale and selling some, because that would be good. We need to get rid of more internal combustion engine vehicles. Am I single? I'm not talking about that yet. That's something I'll be talking about in the future. Do I think Tesla would ever make a minivan? I think Tesla will make a van/mini bus. I do think that Elon has said that they will make vehicles in every conceivable category or every reasonable category. So I don't know whether it will be a minivan like you think of a minivan, but I think they will make a van that carries cargo, and they will make a van that can be configured as a mini bus. I mean, mini bus was definitely in Elon's plan for a long time for mass transit. I'm not sure whether it makes, I think the robo-taxi model may make more sense in most contexts in the rich world. Chris says an antenna engineer said about the intent is not that you can downsize the size of the antenna, but it becomes much less efficient. I mean, I just don't, everything I know, that Elon said that the Starlink requires a pizza box sized antenna. So if you want to carry around a pizza box sized phone, okay. I don't think that's going to work. Mark Plot bench presses Japanese girls. Okay. If you own Tesla shares, it's best to live in a state with no capital gains tax. That includes Texas, Florida, and New Hampshire, among others. So I own my Tesla stock in an IRA. So there's no capital gains tax on an IRA. There's no taxes on an IRA. It's the taxes are when you take the money out. Do I think Tesla will produce 4680s with lithium iron phosphate? Originally, they said no. At Battery Day, they said they were only going to produce high nickel cells, and they were going to let suppliers produce other cells. They didn't say that the suppliers were going to be making lithium iron phosphate 4680s. I feel like I asked Drew about lithium iron phosphate 4680s, and I don't remember if I don't know that 4680 iron phosphate makes sense. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I just don't know that it does make sense. Are you still thinking that Lucid is a scam, or do you admit that you made a mistake? So I covered Lucid earlier in the video. If you scroll back, I covered Lucid earlier in the video. I still think that Lucid is probably a scam. It is probably a fraud. I don't know that it's a fraud. I think that, and I think fundamentally they have a massive business model problem, which is, first of all, can they produce the vehicles that they're making in substantial volume? And then can they find the customers to buy the vehicles in substantial volume? And I think the answer to both of those questions is no. I don't think they have the battery supply. I think that the vehicle's unusually heavy. I think there's a lot of problems with Lucid Air. That have this bizarre footwell in the rear of the car, all kinds of problems. Jim, I am not in a new relationship. No, I am not in it. I do not have a girlfriend. So, Mark, I don't mind people asking the personal questions. I'm just not going to answer them. So with Lucid Motors, I think that they lie to us a lot. I think they are lying to us about the size of the battery pack. I think they lied to us in the early 2021 about how many vehicles they were going to deliver this year, knowing that they weren't going to deliver 6,000 vehicles in February on Fox Business News, I think it was. Peter Rawlinson carried on with the lie that they were going to deliver 6,000 vehicles this year and they were going to deliver vehicles in the spring. I think he knew that it was false when he said it, and that's a lie. And lying is bad, and it bothers me. And anybody who lies is likely to tell more lies. And I'm confident that they are lying about the size of the battery pack and the vehicle that they're claiming has 500 miles of range. I am confident that that vehicle has a 138.6 kilowatt hour pack, not 118 kilowatt hour pack. It's going to come out sooner or later. I don't know why liars lie when they're eventually going to get caught. I think the answer is because they get away with it because people like Lucid fans will just forget about the lie. They just don't care. I don't know. Do I have any legs? Yes, I have legs. What do I think would happen if Elon would be out of commission? I think that Tesla and SpaceX are great companies with great teams that will thrive without Elon. I think that Elon is an accelerator. Elon has a lot of advantages to helping those companies grow, but they are already past the point where they are threatened. Their existence is threatened. They are already the market leaders, and they already have great teams running them, and they will succeed without Elon. But they're better with Elon. Boring Company probably will be fine because the thing about Boring Company is the engineering isn't as hard as the other things. It's hard. It's not as hard. We already know tunnels work, right? They've already gotten their cost of tunneling well below the cost of anybody else's tunneling. They already have a business model that works. They already have a CEO who knows what he's doing. They already have like a team of venture capitalists who are willing to support the operation. So I think Boring Company would be fine. The one that I think would be a problem would be Neuralink, because Neuralink is Elon's pet project, and I think it needs his leadership on the engineering side. I think that whether SpaceX would achieve the Mars part of the mission without Elon is a big question. That's a tough one. I think Elon needs to stick around to be able to fund Mars. Phones are not plausible with Starlink because unless you have a pizza box size phone, it's not going to work. When can we expect? And it doesn't make sense. The bandwidth you need for a phone is so much less than the bandwidth you need for that Starlink provides. When can we expect Dojo to go online? We don't know. I'm going to guess in the next. I think Dojo may already be online. If you listen to the Q3 investor call, something that Drew Baglino said suggested that they're already using Dojo in a limited way. So Dusty Green says Lucid plant was pretty quiet when you were there, and all pictures of it, even the videos of interior, are a bit sus to me. The thing with Lucid Motors is, so I'm wearing this shirt, Innovate with Extreme Urgency. You can get the shirt at elonbits.com. My other shirts, you can get the stainless steel water bottle at elonbits.com. When you go to Starbase, there's contractors who are working 12-hour shifts 7 days a week, and they're just and there's constant activity at Star. I went to Tesla Gigafactory in Texas at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, and there was a huge amount of activity going on. Okay? You go to Starbase any time of day, any day of the week, there's a huge amount of activity going on. They are innovating with extreme urgency. They are full all in, we got to get this done. If you go to Lucid's factory on a Sunday, is anything happening? Is that innovating with extreme urgency? If you want to accomplish your goals and you have Elon sets big goals, let's establish a colony on Mars. Let's displace the entire auto industry. Let's solve let's stabilize the grid with batteries. He sets outrageous goals, but they're believable. They're credible. They're achievable if you work your ass off. And then he motivates people to work really hard by working really hard himself and challenging them to work hard. Any updates on my Cybertruck delivery? Nope, nobody knows when their Cybertruck's gonna be delivered. Actually, Elon sold some of his stock so he could buy a Cybertruck, and he doesn't know when it's going to be delivered. Elon said Apple wants to make their own EV. Do you think Tesla should make his own phone? So I don't remember Elon saying that Apple was going to make their own EV. I don't think Apple can make an EV. Apple can't get freaking autocorrect to work. I have an iPhone. It's okay. The phone part isn't that good. The autocorrect stinks. The camera's really cool. But on the whole, do you really think that your iPhone is that amazing? Like the people who made this, do you really think they can make a car? When you tell the car where you want to go, is it going to get it right? Because Tesla's, when I press the button and say take me to LA Fitness, Tesla's software gets it. I think that an Apple EV would be a disaster, and I don't think there's any reason for Tesla to make a phone. What kind of factor will Dojo outperform GPT-3? I don't know that. I know what GPT-3 is, and I don't think Dojo is designed to outperform GPT-3. It's designed for a different task. Do I really believe Mars can be colonized? Yes, 100% yes. Yes, Mars can be colonized. 100%. I should make a video of this, but let me lay out the Mars colonization business model really quick. Okay. The estimate is when Starship is fully up and running, at scale with large numbers of Starships being produced and large numbers of flights, the cost to get one individual from Earth to Mars will be about $200,000. $200,000 for one person. The goal for the colony is 1 million people. So $200,000 times 1 million people is $200 billion. So it's $200 billion to get 1 million people to Mars. Now, you don't just need to get the people to Mars, you need to get stuff to Mars to supply them with what they need to survive. Solar panels, other equipment, farming equipment, whatever it is you're going to need to be able to produce food and everything you're going to need on Mars. So figure you're going to spend 4 times as much on the stuff that you're going to spend on the people. By the way, that $200,000 probably includes them bringing some stuff with them. But let's say you want to bring a lot more stuff per person. So you're going to spend another $800,000 per person on stuff, right? So you're spending a total of $1 trillion to build a Mars colony. Now, I'll ask you this question. Do you think it's impossible to get $1 trillion for building a Mars colony? And the answer, by the way, is Elon's going to write the check. Elon is the customer. We don't need governments to fund it. We don't need Jeff Bezos to fund it. We don't need to run advertising. Elon is going to be so wealthy from the growth of Tesla and Starlink and SpaceX and Neuralink and Boring Company that Elon's going to be able to write the check himself. He's going to pay to build the Mars colony. So that's why it's possible. And then you get to what's life like on Mars? Well, initially, life is constrained. Maybe you're underground. Maybe you're building structures. I think Elon believes they're going to build structures on the surface rather than going underground. I like the underground idea with the Boring Company tunnels, but Elon seems to think that's not necessary. You just have a couple feet of dirt on top of your structure, and that'll protect you from radiation. And eventually, you're going to need, you're going to need enclosures to keep the air in. But eventually, Elon thinks that in 100 years, 200 years, you'll be able to terraform Mars and make the air breathable. Give it a dense enough atmosphere that humans can breathe on the surface. I think that's a big question. That's like the thing, do I think Mars is achievable? I think it's likely that we can colonize Mars. How successful that Mars colony will be is a big question. Neuralink is a big question. The one thing I think confident about is I don't see how Boring Company fails. Boring Company ends up replacing all bridges, replaces all mass transit systems. I think Boring Company goes huge. Out of the blue there, but weren't you surprised when Elon said Tesla won't build another gigafactory before like 2024? Is that really true? I don't think he said that. He said that they're not currently they're vaguely looking for locations, but they haven't chosen any locations for next factories. He didn't say they won't build another gigafactory. He said they won't build another location, and he didn't put a deadline on. He didn't specifically say not before 2024. But they could build other gigafactories in Texas. They could build other gigafactories in Shanghai, and they could build other gigafactories in Berlin. So I think you're misinterpreting what he said. So Chris says you don't have to go to Starbase. You get 24/7 coverage on YouTube from NASA Spaceflight. That's true. The NASA Spaceflight channel is a great channel. That is one of the channels I watch on YouTube. But it's better if you go in person. The sense of the level of activity at Starbase is much more compelling when you're there in person than it is when you're watching on YouTube. I mean, I saw it in person myself. I went 4 days in a row. Absolutely compelling how hard they're working, what they're doing. Am I going to implement tax maximization like Elon is? No. No, I am not going to maximize taxes. Can we see Tesla bot under $50,000? I think the cost of building Tesla bot will be less than $10,000. The sale price will be completely different. How long will Tesla have a supply constraint? Sells chips. I think Tesla is going to continue to have supply constraints for multiple years. There's always going to be some constraint. There's always going to be a constraint to expanding production. You know, maybe it's chips one day, it sells another day. There's a whole variety of different constraints that are going to come along, supply side constraints, and that's going to be a problem for years. But they're going to work around it. What are the charging characteristics of the 4680? Charge to 100% daily. I believe that with the high nickel cell, you're probably not going to want to charge to 100%. I think with nickel-based cells, you don't want to charge to 100% if you don't have to. I believe that it will charge faster than existing cells. I believe it's going to charge about 20% faster. So if you were going to charge in 20 minutes, now you would charge in 16 minutes. Maybe it's better than that, but I think that's how it's going to work. Maybe they're going to come up with some additional efficiency. I think the tabless design improves it a little bit more. So maybe it's a little bit better than that. Let's see. We're at 2 hours. Why colonize Mars? Are we running out of natural resources on Earth? So Peter Pan asks, why colonize Mars? Are we running out of natural resources on Earth? No, we're definitely not running out of natural resources on Earth. Earth has got a lot left in its tank. We got, the reason we colonize Mars, there's two reasons. One is because there's a risk. Every year there's this very small risk, less than 1% chance, probably less than 0.1% chance, that there will be a cataclysmic event, a large asteroid hitting the Earth, massive string of volcanoes, some kind of massive solar flare. Who knows? There's some very, very small chance that some very, very big event will come and will destroy life on Earth or destroy human civilization, greatly reduce our ability to do anything. So by moving some of humanity into a self-sustaining colony on Mars, then if the cataclysmic event happens on Earth, then humanity continues and the light of consciousness is not extinguished. It has to be self-sustaining and growing colony on Mars, not just a colony. Number two, we colonize Mars because it's a great base of operations for going further into space. For going further into the solar system, and then hopefully technology improves and we find ways of going beyond the solar system to other star systems. This is the beginning of humanity becoming a spacefaring species. And going to Mars is a great first step. It's a better first step than the moon, because of various potential that it has. Do you think Biden has hope to become Elon's ally someday? I don't see that Biden has any interest at all in being Elon's ally. Am I Jewish? Yes. I was born and raised Jewish, but it didn't take. I am basically an agnostic atheist. I'm an atheist, but I don't feel very passionate about it. I'm not like convinced in my atheism. I don't know. I believe that the simulation is far more likely than God. That, the likelihood that we're in a simulation is much greater than the likelihood that the Bible is true, or that the Torah is true, or that the Quran is true. Why doesn't Tesla building another 10 plus factories ASAP? They don't have the material supplies to build. You could build more factories, but if you don't have the batteries and the chips and the other supplies to build the cars, then what was the point of building the factories? They're constrained in a variety of ways. They have the cash to build more factories, but they don't have the supply chain to sustain the factories once they build them. Mars can be terraformed by Lucid Air, sure. What do I think of high-speed rail? I think high-speed rail is going to die. I mean, I've ridden on the TGV, the Train de Grande Vitesse in France. I've ridden on the bullet train, the Shinkansen in Japan. I think they're really cool, they're really fun, and they're really obsolete compared to boring company tunnels and Hyperloop. I think boring tunnels make sense on Mars, but that's Elon's call. Elon knows it better than I do. So Martin Muldoon says Warren, Mars can never have an atmosphere because it doesn't have a spinning iron core. Any atmosphere will be stripped away. No, Mars already has an atmosphere. It already has an atmosphere. I don't know the limitations on being able to create a thicker atmosphere on Mars, a breathable atmosphere on Mars. I think that's hundreds of years, and I don't think we should underestimate the ability of engineers to figure out a solution that makes it viable. I don't know. Is terraforming Mars possible? It's possible. How difficult, whether the engineers can do it, I don't know. They're going to gigaform Mars. They're not going to terraform Mars. They're going to gigaform Mars. I like that. How much do Rivian and Lucid benefit from Tesla providing proof of concept and paving the path? Aren't they better positioned than OEMs will be cannibalizing their ICE products? Rivian and Lucid and Arcimoto and Fisker and anybody who's trying to make EVs, their path has been made easier in terms of raising money for their business by the fact that Tesla succeeded. That is a sign that it is possible to succeed building an EV. Rivian, in my opinion, has a much better chance of succeeding because they have such a big cash pile. Lucid's cash pile is much smaller. Rivian is also choosing markets that are larger, so pickup trucks and SUVs, smaller pickup truck. Well, a compact pickup truck is something that even Cybertruck doesn't compete with. The SUV is like a really heavy-duty off-road SUV. That's kind of interesting. I don't know that anybody's really competing with that. I don't know how big the market is for those, but for them to make a less aggressive, a more on-road focused pickup truck and SUV is a pretty natural extension of what they're doing, and there's a big market for those. The delivery van that they're making for Amazon, huge market for that. So the market for $170,000 sedans, not so great. The market even for, they get down to the $80,000 sedan, just not that big of a market. So Lucid's got a problem with the market segment that they're going for. Now they've got a big SUV coming in 2023 maybe. They're gonna have to raise money before they do that. Is that a good plan? I don't know. I don't think that Lucid's plan is viable. I think they're too expensive for the market. Have I considered getting more of my awesome content on Spotify? I tried taking my live streams videos or my videos and putting them on Spotify or on a podcast format, and it just didn't get that many listens. So if somebody out there thinks that they can help me take what I'm doing and put it in a podcast form and get it to reach a large number of people, I'm willing to consider that. So email me, wredlick@gmail.com, and then maybe. Craig Nevin, you should be polite to Jim Whitehead because Jim Whitehead is a moderator. So I'm gonna remove that comment. Please be polite to the moderators. If you see that they're Jim Whitehead and Mark Potachnik, I know Mark, I'm mispronouncing your name, and Mark Plott are moderators, and Carl Stockmal, if he's there, they're moderators. Be nice to the moderators. I can't help you with that. Do I agree with Sandy that the Chinese are coming? I agree with Elon that the Chinese are coming. And it isn't just Sandy. Elon thinks the Chinese are coming. Jeff Don thinks the Chinese are coming. The Chinese are coming. Ben Pena brings up Kimball Musk's container farming method which is called square roots for Mars. I think that what Kimball is doing in terms of farming could make a lot of sense. Gary, thank you so much for your support. Erroneous compliance measurements at Giga Berlin. If true, should Tesla put bureaucrats on notice they may be liable for costs and damages from erroneous and thereby unnecessarily punitive delays? I don't think that they're going to be liable for costs and damages. The law doesn't work that way. Thank you, Coatron. Thank you. Am I pronouncing that right? Coatron? The governments are not liable for their actions. The government, there's no accountability in government. There's some effort to try to make governments accountable. They're not accountable. The way that if German authorities hold up Giga Berlin the way to solve that problem is to have massive protests in Germany. I'm talking about Black Lives Matter scale protests. Okay, if you believe in the climate change, listen. I'm not a huge climate change guy. I'm not saying it's not real. It's not something that I worry about. I want to see electric vehicles anyway. I want to reduce pollution. I want to reduce air pollution. I want to reduce fossil fuel pollution. I don't care whether it's climate change or something else. But if you are a big believer in climate change, or you're with me and you're a big believer in environmental improvement by having electric vehicles that are much cleaner for the environment, and you say that you care, especially if you're in Germany, if you're in Europe, if you're not protesting what they're doing in Germany already, then what are you doing? Start organizing protests. Get out there. Massive protests. I want to see 100,000 people in the streets of Berlin complaining about the bureaucrats holding up EVs. You know, if you really believe in this stuff, if you claim that you're an environmentalist and you claim you care about this stuff, get out there and show me. Get out there and show the German bureaucrats that you're sick of their crap. That's what's going to do it. But, you know, threatening to sue them, that's not going to get you anywhere. Will boring tunnels be for EV only? No. The boring company loop system that Tesla is building in Las Vegas and the one that they're going to build in Fort Lauderdale, those will be EV only. The proposed tunnel system that that boring company might do in Miami to replace the Brickell Bridge, that will be for other vehicles, not just electric vehicles. Mark Platt, I should moderate your comment. Bots will work well on Mars because they don't care about radiation damage much and don't need to breathe air. Bots will work well on Mars because they don't care about radiation damage. Bots will work great on Mars. I absolutely agree with that. Martin, I believe that the Ford Mustang Mach-E does qualify for some of the tax credit, but it doesn't get the union or American-made parts of the tax credit. Am I concerned about Giga Berlin permit? Yeah, of course I'm concerned about it. But I am confident that Elon knows how to work the system to get it done. And Korean girls. Women are great all over the world. Women are great all over the world. There's lots of great women anywhere in any country or all over the world. Men, not so much, but there's lots of great women. Chinese market is way bigger than the US. Why do they need to come here? Nobody said they need to come here. If they could sell cars here, why wouldn't they sell cars here? Sell cars where people want to buy cars. Work fried rice? What? There's something going on in the chat I missed. 1 year in Mars at minus 80 degrees, and I think most people would want to come back to Earth. Well, so the idea, X-Ray Dwayne, is that you don't spend your time in the minus 80 degree weather. This is a mission-driven thing, right? Look, soldiers get in submarines, nuclear submarines, and go down underwater for really long periods of time. You know? I do want to thank, I think it's pronounced Koa Tran again for supporting the channel. Please, super stickers, super chats, you know, any support is helpful. Enables, because there's a really good chance that YouTube's going to demonetize this video because they keep demonetizing my live streams. I don't know why, but they keep doing it. So, what are we at? We're at over 2 hours. I'm feeling good. I'll keep Dolly Parton. All right. Have I heard about the Marshall Plan? I've heard about the Marshall Plan, but I don't know what you're talking. What the connection is. All right, so I think the chat has gone downhill into a little heavy on the women thing. Why does Tesla not build its own chips to become completely independent? From Real Rusty. So Elon was asked about that, and the problem is that I don't think Tesla's demand for chips is large enough to sustain a chip fab. Chip fabs typically serve a much larger volume of chips than Tesla can consume. So it doesn't make sense for Tesla to build its own fab. Also, the length of time it would take to scale up to get a chip fab ramped would be long. I think that I don't think the chip constraint is that bad for Tesla. I think Tesla has a lot of constraints, and we hear about the chip constraint, but it's not the only constraint. There's a lot of different issues. Matthias asks if super chats are working today. I have Gary, and I've had multiple super chats and super stickers. Who do I think will run for president first, Elon Musk or Jeff Hu? Elon Musk is not eligible to run for president. He was not born in the United States, and he doesn't want to be president. I don't think Jeff Bezos wants to be president either. If I would open a Chabad on Mars, would you come visit? If I go to Mars and you open a Chabad on Mars, then yes, I would come visit. I have visited in a Chabad occasionally here. Chabad, for those who don't know, is a form of Jewish synagogue or temple, particular type of synagogue or temple that's very welcoming. But I'm not particularly religious, and I don't think I'm that likely to go to Mars. I should talk about that really quick. Why am I not going to Mars? So I believe that the first 10 to 20 years of building out a Mars colony will be the most valuable people will be engineers, people who are good at fixing stuff. My value on Mars would be if there's an air leak, they will use me to plug it. Okay? I'm a lawyer and a YouTuber. I don't bring a lot of useful skills to Mars. It is a very long trip. It is a minimum of 30 months from the time you take off from Earth to the time you get back home, if you get back home. I have children. And the communication gap, it's like a 30-minute lag between when you send a message to Earth and it comes and they see it. I think it's an average of 12 minutes. Maybe it's a minimum of 12 minutes. It's a long lag. So you can't really have a genuine conversation with someone. You can't FaceTime your kid. So you are removing yourself from all your family and friends for 30 months. So going with your family would make sense, but I don't think my kids want to go to Mars. You know, I think there are people who are more mission driven, who have more skills that are more appropriate to go to Mars than me. I would love to go to the moon. I would love to go into orbit, because those are short trips, but a long trip with that limited communication. I got kids that still count on me to help them with things. Even though they're older now, even though they're young adults now, they still count on me for help. And I think they're going to continue needing my help in a limited way. They'll manage without me, but they do better with me. And I enjoy helping them. And that's my biggest joy in life is my kids. I love talking to you guys on YouTube, but my biggest joy in life is my kids. So that's my focus. So going to Mars isn't really a fit with that mission. What's the penalty for early IRA withdrawal? I think you lose 10%. I don't remember exactly how that works, but I'm not planning to withdraw early from an IRA, so ask your broker. When do you think supply chain issue will be over for Tesla? Never. Supply chain issue will never be over. There will always be a supply chain issue of some sort or other. When you're a rapidly growing company, you're always going to have issues. When they stop growing rapidly, then it won't be a problem, and then I won't own any Tesla stock because they won't be growing rapidly anymore. How difficult is it to start insurance for Tesla? It's a state-by-state thing. It's a jurisdiction-by-jurisdiction thing. So they started in Texas. I think they're planning to be in most of the United States by the end of 2022. So I'm hoping they come to Florida soon. We'll see. Being president is a terrible job for a lot of reasons. I agree with that. I have FSD 10.4, Arlen. FSD 10.5, to my knowledge, is not out. I think 10.5 is coming in a week or two, and I will get it when it comes. Diovan Moet says, Cybertruck seems to weigh the same as the Ford F-150. This is going to be bad for Rivian and others. The Rivian is way too heavy in the long run. So I have a video where I talk about Rivian's weight. It turns out that when I said that Rivian weighed 7,000 pounds, I underestimated the weight. The curb weight, when it was just tested by a magazine, was 7,148 pounds. I think that's with some extra equipment. 7,148 pounds. I believe that the Cybertruck, all versions of Cybertruck will weigh less than 5,000 pounds. A greater than 2,000 pound weight advantage over Rivian. I think that the dual motor Cybertruck is going to weigh in the ballpark of 4,500 pounds. And the tri-motor is going to weigh 4,700, 4,800 pounds. Those are estimates. I can't prove it. But I think Elon's target for Cybertruck was to weigh the same as the 4,700 pound F-150. How do I like my car, Rolo asks. Love the car. Absolutely love the car. I love FSD beta. I love watching the car drive itself. If you are in a hurry, FSD beta is annoying. So if you are trying to get somewhere and you were trying to get there quickly, then don't drive FSD beta. If you are not in a hurry, then FSD beta is fantastic. If you are driving the car, it is a dream to drive. It drives beautifully. It is fast. It handles extremely well. It is comfortable. I bought the car from Omar. Omar had premium connectivity, so I have free Spotify for life. I have Netflix. I have YouTube, not while I'm driving. Spotify when I'm driving. Netflix and YouTube when I'm sitting in the car. It is fantastic. It is fantastic in so many ways. There's the technology, the way it works in so many different ways. I just love it. And I haven't been to a gas station. I haven't been to a gas station since I got the car. I've been to a supercharger station. Superchargers work great too. Philip asks, what do I eat on my new diet? My diet, I try to be low carb. It's a good question. I'll address this. I try to eat low carb, so I try not to eat a lot of, no bread, no pasta, no potatoes, no sugar, no rice. Generally meat, vegetables, and cheese and stuff like that. I do cheat and eat some dark chocolate covered almonds. I eat nuts. But I think the bigger thing about my diet is that I skip lunch almost every day. I skipped lunch today. It's now 3 in the afternoon. I had a late breakfast actually this morning, but that's not normal. I exercised this morning early, and that took a while, and so I got back around 10 a.m. and then I had a relatively late breakfast. I believe I'm having dinner in a couple hours. Some days I skip lunch almost every day, and I try to skip dinner once or twice a week. So it's sort of like a combination of vaguely intermittent fasting and low carb. The low carb helps me not feel hungry. And Falunka Dunk says, why don't you move to Twitch? I don't know if you noticed, Falunka Dunk, but I have over 60,000 subscribers on YouTube. They're not all going to come to Twitch. I don't know much about Twitch. I don't know enough to know whether it makes sense to move to Twitch. I don't think Twitch is a free speech platform. I've already moved partly to the Daily Lie on Locals, which check out the links in the description below for that channel. That's where I talk about politics. It may be that I switch to Rumble instead of Locals, but I already have a good following on Locals and it's growing well. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with Rumble. Maybe Rumble's going to be an additional platform, but I thought Twitch was a platform for people making videos about video games. So I don't know enough about Twitch to know whether it makes sense to go on Twitch. But I don't think it makes sense. Let's see. So Go says it's better to skip breakfast rather than lunch. It might be better for some people to skip breakfast better than lunch, but my personal history, everybody's diet is different. Don't assume that your diet works for other people. In my personal history, when I skipped breakfast, I got an ulcer. So I learned that I need to eat breakfast so I don't get ulcers. If skipping breakfast works for you, great. For me, it doesn't. I'm thin enough to go on Fox News as a Tesla analyst. Chris Simmons, it's actually better to not skip any meals and eat maybe 6 small ones during the day. Everybody's diet, your diet can work for you. My diet can work for me. All I can tell you is I've done this diet. I've lost over 20 pounds. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm glad you've got a diet that works for you. I've got one that works for me. I think I'm not suggesting that anybody follow the diet I'm following. I'm doing the diet that works for me. Same thing with investment. I tell you why I'm excited about why I'm buying Tesla stock. I'm not telling you to buy Tesla stock. You buy whatever you want. Not my place to tell you what stocks to buy, and not my place to tell you what diet to eat. And if you think it's your place to tell me what diet I should eat, then I think you need to think again. Can I charge my Tesla at home? Yes, I just plug it into a regular wall outlet. I have not, in this home here, I have not installed a level 2 charging system. I have a NEMA 1450 adapter, which is set up in the house that I used to live in. So I can charge there with it. I don't go vegan. I eat meat. I have not had pizza. I think I had some leftover pizza in the freezer that I decided to eat to get rid of. I eat leftovers. And if the leftovers have carbs in them, then I'll eat the leftovers. If somebody, in the family or whatever is leftovers, I will occasionally eat carbs in that way, but almost never. I have a Model 3 long range 2018 rear wheel drive. When can I expect pricing to come back down on Teslas? I think we're in an inflationary environment. I don't think that price is necessarily going to come back down on Tesla cars. So, will the F-150 Lightning beat the Cybertruck to market? It's possible. It is possible, but it won't beat it in scale. I think they're hoping to make 50,000 F-150 Lightnings a year. Tesla's going to make 300,000 Cybertrucks a year minimum and maybe 1 million a year. Does an insurance acquisition make sense for Tesla to speed up that end of the business? No. They already have the insurance in place. They just need to work with the regulators in each state to get what they want going. And they've got it in Texas. They've got a good model. They're working on it. Zach is on top of that. It'll be good. Should Disney open up an amusement park on the moon? Disney Space Galaxy. That's over my head. A Tesla will swerve if a car starts to sway into its lane, but will the Tesla honk its horn to warn the other car? As far as I know, Teslas do not honk. You can go on both YouTube and Twitch. Yeah, but I don't I just haven't bothered to worry about Twitch. What's everyone's end of year price per? I think I can go on multiple platforms at the same time. I'm just comfortable going on YouTube the way I'm doing it. What's a pizza? How do I think inflation will affect Tesla stock? This is a really good question. So I made a video on the Daily Lie talking about inflation in the last week or so, and I believe that one was free for followers. For you don't have to be a paid supporter to see that video. I think that inflation is a huge risk. I think that government has been printing money like crazy. It's a huge risk. I think if inflation takes off the way I'm worried about, then it's not about Tesla stock that I'm worried about. It's about economic collapse. I think in an economic crisis, I think high-performing companies like Tesla are more likely to survive than others. But I think if we face this true economic collapse and hyperinflation, then it could take everything down. Everything could go. I think Republicans and Democrats have both been massively reckless with regard to the danger of inflation. But that's not about Tesla stock. I don't know anything about Radiant, a nuclear reactor startup. I think that there's a lot of interesting ideas with nuclear and space, but I don't know enough. China owns Taiwan. All right, so I think almost at 2.5 hours now. So I don't talk about stock splits. I don't care whether the stock splits. I don't know why people care about the stock split. It's like any fear that the market tanks given all the inflation chatter. It's not inflation chatter. It's if inflation actually takes hold, then the market tanks. And it's not just the market that tanks. This is the thing. It's not just that the market tanks. It's that the economy tanks. It's that the global economy tanks. There's so much crap going on in the world today that is threatening to wreck the global economy. Travel restrictions, transportation restrictions, import restrictions, all these things over. I don't want to get specific about it, but there's all these things going on that are not good for the global economy, and inflation is one of them, and that's not just the United States that's doing it. We low-income people want the crash. No, you don't. The low-income people do not want the crash. The crash will be worse for you than it'll be for rich people. I got food, I got water, I got guns, I got ammo. I'm going to be fine. I got medical supplies. I got a place to hide out. You don't have any of that. When the supermarket shelves go empty, you're the first one to suffer. Low-income people do not want to crash. That is a very, very not bright attitude. You do not want to crash. You will take it harder than anybody else. Whenever the economy tanks, it's the worst for the poor people. So, all right. I think we're at 2.5 hours now. We're close enough to 2.5 hours. I want to thank the moderators in particular. I want to thank the Vasa Law Firm in Sweden and all my Patreon supporters for helping the channel grow. Please check out my other videos. Please check out the t-shirts and the stainless steel water bottle on elonbits.com. Please check out my book, Fair DUI, on Amazon. All this is linked in the description below. Check out my channel, The Daily Lie. I am now making videos almost every day on The Daily Lie. I think I've done several days in a row. Today I'm not making a video, but I'm The Daily Lie. Please check it out. Support that channel. That's my new thing that I'm putting. I'm still trying to do as much as I did on YouTube before, but I have more free time thanks to my new setup. And so Daily Lie, support the channel on Patreon. Join the YouTube channel as a member, especially exclusive content member. And thanks again to Jim Whitehead, Mark. I'm sorry, I want to get it wrong. Mark and Mark. I didn't see Carl Stockmall today. I hope everybody's doing well. I will hopefully have more news for you next week. And, I'm going to be making more TeslaBot videos, bottles for TeslaBot. Should have at least one video this week, maybe two. Thanks to everyone.